rebounds in the loss. Lakers topped the Timberwolves 110-103. LA was led by Anthony Davis, who had 35 points and 16 rebounds. LeBron James had 16 points. His son Bronny played 3 minutes, had no points, but they became the first father-son duo to ever play in an NBA game together. In his Minnesota debut, Julius Randle had 16 points and 9 rebounds. Sad news from baseball, where former Dodgers legendary pitcher Fernando Valenzuela has passed away in 1981. Burst on the scene, won the Rookie of the Year, the NL Cy Young Award, and was a part of a World Series championship team. Fernando Valenzuela was 63. I'm Eddie Garcia.
Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
Do more people look forward to Halloween than Christmas?
No.
Hell no.
I think this is a generational
No, it is
thing.
not you always say that.
Because people of my generation love Halloween more than we love Christmas.
I don't believe
we just
this
do.
either.
More of
You
us like
do.
Halloween more.
You do.
I think people care less about getting gifts now. But
Halloween is a kid's holiday.
No, that I'll disagree with that.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast, presented by Bellevue Berry and Pumpkin Ranch, from the KETV Newswatch 7 Weather Center on 1620 The Zone.
Cooling down for your Wednesday. Expect clouds in the morning with a stray sprinkle possible before 9 a.m. A little breezy, too, with north winds gusting up to 20 miles per hour. Lighter winds, tons of sunshine for the afternoon, highs in the mid-60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Good morning. Hope your Wednesday's off to a great start. If you are heading out early this morning, good news. Roads in the metro looking good. No major delays popping up right now from any slow traffic buildup or accidents. As things change throughout the morning, I'll get those updates to you. Just stay safe and wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Saul's Jewelry and Loan at 31st and L is our South Omaha location. It's our South Omaha home for amazing prices on jewelry, tools, bikes, guitars. Anything you're looking for, as well as cash on the spot loans right in the store. Come see us at Saul's in South Omaha, 31st and L.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is always looking to make your game day bigger and better. Cheer on your favorite team this season in front of a 22-foot LED video wall showing up to 8 games at once. TVs are everywhere else you can look with a state-of-the-art audio and video system. Enjoy a big old pizza or award-winning char-buffed wings. There's just no better way to do your game day. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road. And for takeout at 162nd and Maple.
Cross Strain Brewing Company, the official sponsor of One Beer Friday on 1620 The Zone. Cross Strain Brewing Company, always evolving, trying to make every beer enjoyable, drinkable, and leave you asking, what are they going to do next? Join them at the original location in La Vista, downtown at their DraftWorks location, or be the hero at your tailgate this fall when you bring a Cross Strain brew with you. Find out what's on tap at KROSStrainbrewing.com. Cross Strain Brewing Company, where beer is never boring.
You can't run.
We've been waiting for you.
You can't hide.
Don't you want to play?
Because Scary Acres is back, and we're ready to make you scream. The Master's Castle, House on the Hill, in the Haunted Woods. Scary Acres, Omaha's ultimate haunted attractions. Now open, 172nd and Giles. Sponsored in part by Spare Time, Raising Cane's, Hy-Vee, Stereo West, and Texas Roadhouse. Are you prepared to face your fears?
Every 4 years, the world watches. Every corner kick, every save, every pass. The world watches its most beautiful game played at its highest level. And for a moment, the world stops turning for soccer. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026, supporting possibilities turned into achievements on the biggest stage. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. member FDIC.
I'm Bridget Condon with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. The Buccaneers will be without wide receiver Chris Godwin for the rest of the season as he's set to have surgery on the dislocated ankle he suffered Monday night against the Ravens, according to NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport. Tampa will also be without receiver Mike Evans for this Sunday's divisional matchup against the Falcons with a hamstring injury. Bucs head coach Todd Bowles says the injury will keep him out until after the team's Week 11 bye and described it as, quote, moderate, but says Evans is hurting pretty good. Meantime, the Rams opened the 21-day practice window for wide receiver Puka Nacua, who returned to practice Tuesday. Nacua has been on injured reserve with a knee injury that he re-aggravated in the team's Week 1 game against the Lions. The Rams are also expected to have Cooper Kupp back for Thursday Night Football against the Vikings. And the Browns are signing quarterback Bailey Zappi off the Chiefs practice squad, according to NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
All right, gentlemen, this is Emmett Smith on behalf of Depend, and I've got the perfect play. Run straight to your doctor's office for a life-changing catch. Because when prostate cancer is caught early, it's up to 99% treatable, and one blood test might be all it takes. And now through November, Depend is donating to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for select purchases. Talk about a great play.
From September 1st to November 30th, Depend is donating 40 cents to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for Depend Shield Guards Real Fit products purchased in the U.S. up to a maximum of $300,000 void in Mississippi.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is 5 $10 vouchers for just $25 to Stories Coffee Company. Break away from your boring coffee routine and stop by a Stories Coffee Company. Handcrafted, locally roasted premium coffee is served with a smile at one of our 5 Stories Omaha locations. Stop in or drive through and support local at Stories Coffee Company.
Zone Deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com.
Join the movement to end breast cancer as we know it for everyone. When supporting the American Cancer Society making strides against breast cancer, you're helping save lives through groundbreaking research and patient support. Join the movement today at makingstrideswalk.org/Nebraska.
Listen to 1620 The Zone, weekdays for the Big Red Practice Report, presented by Tickets for Less. Visit ticketsforless.com and use promo code The Zone to score incredible savings for your favorite team. It's the Big Red Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less.
1620 The Zone.
It's a lot on me. I have to commit to it. I think that I've gotten, we're really good getting the ball to Ja'Cory and the receivers and reverses and perimeter and all that stuff, which is weird because of our perimeter blocking, but that's been one of our strong things this year is our perimeter runs. I've got to make sure I get in the mindset of you have to, in order to win in this league, establish the run game. And so, through the bye week and through this past week, I think that, we're going to work towards getting back to that for sure.
Is that a matter of patience? Is that what we're talking about?
I think just a matter of making sure that, I feel like we got the runs and the proper formations and personnel that we can hand the ball off and get 3 or 4 yards. Like I don't want to hand it off and, just be stupid and hard-headed and say, let's run at this big defensive line and get a yard just to say I ran the ball and it's 2nd and 9. So I just have to develop trust myself and make sure that I'm getting the proper plays called where we can attack the proper edges to fall for 4 or 5 yards. And then eventually, right, make a guy miss and go, have an explosive run.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Get your ass out of here.
Whoa, no. Stay here for the next 4 hours. Do not follow the advice of Matt Rule. I want to tell you guys, good morning. Good happy hump day.
Hi.
My emotions are all over the place this morning.
Well, for the obvious reason that I think a lot of baseball fans are too, with the passing of one Fernando Valenzuela, which, interestingly enough, that is one of the most memorable moments of the Fernando Valenzuela era was the 81 rookie season. And we were just talking, was it yesterday or Monday? Hey, we all remember where we were in the 1981 World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees. Even though I was 2.
That was the last time the Yankees and the Dodgers played in the World Series.
Dodgers in 3 now.
And Valenzuela winning Game 3 against one Dave Ragetti. Yes. So for that part, obviously a little somber today.
Yeah, I'm so that because I have met Fernando Valenzuela.
Oh,
and super kind gentleman. He loved to talk ball. My connection to him is a guy that was in my wedding is the Dodgers communications director.
Okay.
And so the times that I've gone out to LA and gone to Dodgers games, I've bugged Tony. And so that's how I met Vin Scully.
So I was just going to say,
And
your Dodger list is pretty
Fernando
impressive.
Valenzuela.
That's
and
impressive.
I was really sad. He had been sick and way too soon at the age of 63. But he's one of those guys, and that's part of the emotion of news I'm getting about my NFL team this morning. The stuff that you just heard there in the open, we're going to be all over the map today. But Fernando Mania, so passes away at the age of 63, and he had not been he had been struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
But the thing you bring up, Nick, about his rookie season, and there are some of our audience that remember it, Fernando Mania throwing the incredible screwball and the delivery that a lot of people mimicked is if you have been to Dodger games, and I never saw Fernando in person until he was at the end, and I actually saw him as a San Diego Padre. So it wasn't the same, and it was kind of, but here's a guy that won the Cy Young, won a Gold Glove, won a Silver Slugger, threw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
I think that is the only person that is on that list. But what he did, and then in 1981, of course, in the World Series, he saved the Dodgers. He had in Game 3, he threw a complete game. He threw 147 pitches, and he wasn't at his best, but he did enough to allow the Dodgers to win. But what his rookie season did is it captured the hearts of a demographic that needed to be welcomed into baseball. And in that community where they have a very much a Hispanic Latin American population, Fernando was the connection from the city of Los Angeles, which is such a dynamically diverse community. It was the connection to the Dodgers because you could go to the ballpark and Fernando was pitching. And, years later, he has stayed as an ambassador for the Dodgers, and you'd go to spring training and he would be there and there'd be lines of people that wanted his autograph. And he was also on the Spanish broadcast.
Right.
But the other thing that always sticks with me, the numerous times I've been out to Dodger Stadium, is people to this day, and he hasn't been a Dodger in uniform for a long time. People still wear 34.
Yeah.
You'll go to the ballpark and you will look around and there will be people wearing Valenzuela 34 jerseys. So that news late last night was that one hit because he was the connection to so many of why you watched baseball, because you couldn't look away from Fernando. I mean, he started his rookie season, he was 8-0 with a 0.5 ERA.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? How many complete games right out of his rookie season, too?
More than are thrown today.
Well, it was like 8, wasn't it?
Oh.
I mean, that's insane. My Fernando Valenzuela recollection is, you mentioned it right there in the open, though, and that is we all tried to do the Fernando delivery.
Even if you're a right-hander.
Yes. Oh, and I was. I mean, hell, how many young people around my age actually maybe turned into a lefty because they were actually trying to do that, and they're trying to have it down to a T as a lefty. But we all had the eye to the sky, had the big, you bring the weight back, you have the eye to the sky, and then you just have that big sweeping delivery. And it was something that was so unique to him. It was so cool. And I remember years later watching, I think I probably watched it later in life. I hope I did anyway, because it was probably not suitable for young people. But watching Bull Durham when they talked about Ippy Calvin LaLoosh's delivery, and they said a little bit of Valenzuela in there because he has the using the Prattle eye and using his inner Fernando, as she says. But listening to a lot of the tributes here in the hours since he's passed, he was a cult figure in Los Angeles, and you talked about the demographic there. And I didn't know this about Chavez Ravine until I was listening to some of these tributes, that was actually originally used as a place for displaced Mexican Americans. And so having that bridge to bring in not only people like hey, you're welcome here, but now you have something that you can absolutely embrace, and how quickly that took. And you're right. I mean, I just watching some of the DS and the CS, you see 34 jerseys all over the place. Even on camera, you see a lot of 34 jerseys. And so I'm actually there. I've talked about some of the baseball players that have since passed that I never had the privilege of seeing. I'm jealous that you had a chance to meet him too. Again, and this goes before he passed, of hearing about some of the great ambassadors. It was kind of interesting when we were talking about Dikembe Mutombo and the type of ambassador he was for the sport. I mean, his play spoke for itself, just like Fernando Valenzuela's play speaks for itself. But what those individuals did with their platform to be an ambassador to their country, to their culture, and to continue to do that work even when they were, long done playing that sport. Another one, and Fernando Valenzuela, just like the Dikembe Mutombo, had that type of impact. And everything I've ever heard about Fernando Valenzuela is the ambassador part of him after playing, and his impact in the broadcast too. All of those things, you think about the legacy that these people build on a field, whether we're talking about a basketball player or a baseball player. But it's amazing how much people really hurt even more because of what they meant, because of the selfless act that they used their platform for.
So there's a lot of 34 jerseys, and back in August I went out to visit my brother, and so we went to a couple Dodger games. That, and I see this at Wrigley Field as well. No more Garcia Parra jerseys. So you see a lot of the current guys, a lot of Kershaws, a lot of Mookies, a lot of course, a lot of Otanis.
Right.
But you will see Valenzuela and you see Garcia Parra. The thing also about like Fernando in that time period when he burst onto the scene, and Fernando mania was everywhere. Now, I was really, really young, but I mean, we were in a baseball household, so you couldn't get away from it. There were a lot of people that fell in love with the game because of him, that started playing baseball because of him. And there are very few athletes along the journey of life and your connection with sports that, bring you in. Like you can pinpoint, I started watching the Dodgers, or I started playing baseball. I was a Mexican-American and watching Fernando, and I started playing baseball.
Yeah.
I started watching baseball. I became a Dodger fan. That's the impact.
Isn't that incredible, though?
Yeah, and
for one person to have that type of impact.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was the representative for a country pitching in Major League Baseball, where at the time,
at 20 years old,
Mexicans they'd been in the game, but they had not been successful. And then he burst onto the scene, and Fernando mania just encompassed LA. Everything you hear from people that were in it at the time, you couldn't go anywhere without people having 34 up in their business. They would paint signs. They'd have jerseys, T-shirts. When Fernando would pitch, he was a must-watch.
Yeah.
And it became a thing across the country. And then it culminated because you had the Dodgers and the Yankees playing in the World Series. And unfortunately, he passes away a couple of days before we get the Dodgers and the Yankees playing in the World Series. So I had that emotion. Then we got an Adam Schefter bomb at 6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, buddy.
So Adam Schefter has reported, because I had talked myself completely out of Cooper Kupp. Because I'm like, this guy, nice career, but he's injury prone.
He's back this week.
Yeah, he is. And they might trade Stafford. Boy, the Rams have just said, hey, we got our Super Bowl. That's good. Thank you. So Schefter is reporting, because Cooper Kupp yesterday, the Chiefs were the betting favorites at plus 200 to get Cooper Kupp. And I'm like, okay, he's had the ankle injury this year. In one game, he did catch a touchdown. Last year when he was healthy, he only played 12 games, but he caught 59 balls from Stafford. I got Mahomes. But the last thing I need, I am racking up injury after injury with the Chiefs. I need somebody to stay healthy. Now, I need a wide receiver that wants to play, because Adam Schefter is reporting that the Chiefs and the Titans are working on a deal to send DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City. Oh, if he wants to play, and by the way, the Titans basically said, we made a mistake with Will Levis. We're going to start over. We're going into a brand new stadium after the 26 season. Yeah. You know what? We're going to blow this thing up. So the Chiefs flirted with Hopkins last year, but he was too pricey. And, they don't want to give up a top 100 pick, and they have to get a wide receiver because of the injury to Rice and Hollywood Brown. His playoff return hopes are kind of slim. So here we are. DeAndre Hopkins headed to Kansas City. I even checked to see if this was a fake account.
Oh, you thought maybe it was fake Adam
Well,
Schefter?
because somebody I have a notification on, they retweeted it.
Yeah.
Or reposted it. And I was like, because what was a fake account last night that got a lot of exposure. Oh, Ed Cooley to Virginia. And Tim Brando was lamenting about Ed Cooley.
Was he rolling with that one?
And Jeff Goodman stepped in. He said, it's fake, Tim. So I did check to see if this was like a real Schefter account.
Yeah.
So
No, you're good.
It's real.
Yeah, it's being reported. The idea of DeAndre Hopkins.
Now, if he wants to play, because
I don't know how he wouldn't want to.
Now in
this
Kansas
offense.
City, but he was making the last couple of weeks watching the Titans.
He's making business decisions.
Yeah, we weren't really invested in doing things.
Well,
he looked like he was playing wide receiver for Nebraska.
Yeah, but when you've got the quarterback situation that they obviously have in Tennessee, I thought when DeAndre Hopkins was in Houston for that brief moment too, that was exciting. Or I'm sorry, with the Cardinals, and you see the type of player that I think he still is. But I think these guys are also very smart, and they understand what the ultimate ceiling with their offense can be under the certain guidance or quarterback play. I don't blame him. I think you're looking at a sleeping giant with DeAndre Hopkins in that offense, paired with some speed with Xavier Worthy, that offensive mind in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I think this is better than Cooper Kupp, to be quite honest with you. I think this is a guy that is still a matchup nightmare. He's not so long in the tooth to where it's like, well, what was when Julio Jones went to Tennessee a couple years ago, people were like, well, okay. It's like, all right, if you get that 5 years ago, that's a good deal. Now, I don't know. DeAndre Hopkins is not quite at that level yet where you're like, DeAndre Hopkins 4 years ago, this is a good thing. No, this is that perfect. There's, some tread on the tire. There's some question about his production, but the type of player that he is, and given his age in that offense, that's scary. That really is scary.
So I'm looking at the deal. Albert Breer is reporting that likely will have a condition tied to playing time in Kansas City, win the Super Bowl again to take the pick from a 5th to a 4th. Tennessee is going to pick up about half his salary. Because that was the thing with Cooper Kupp is, would the Rams pick up enough of the salary? Because could the Chiefs with some cap concerns, and I know the cap is like fake, but they
you mentioned the Rams. The Rams are a prime example of that.
So it looks like Tennessee is making this very appealing to the Chiefs. Red Veach, love you long time, baby. Love you long time. I might be back in. I was like, you know what? It's nice 6-0.
You were out?
6-0 because I've had to adjust.
You're ho-humming a 6-0.
The Chiefs are a defensive team now. I got Spags who should be in Canton.
That's fine.
Okay, I got all these injuries. I mean, it's one after another.
Not all rings are created equal.
You're used to a defensive team. That was the 90s.
I got a quarterback that's got 6 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions. I'm like, whoa. I'm just hang on. Let's hang on, boys.
He's a problem.
Well, now DeAndre Hopkins could be headed to Kansas City. All right, welcome in, everybody. Off and rolling. There's Nick, Jimmy. I'm Gary. The other part of yesterday, there is really, it is easier to block and mute people on X than it is friends that text you. So I made the crucial mistake yesterday. Major mistake on my part. I took a nap at about noon. I had some things in the afternoon that I'm like, I'm going to sneak in a little power 30-minute here, and then I'm going to go about my day.
Mm-hmm. It didn't go 3 hours.
I woke up. No. It went about 40 minutes.
You woke up to, what did you say?
I woke up and I looked at my phone, and I was receiving text messages from people that are friends of mine that don't live around here.
Yeah.
And then a couple of people I know that are in the college football business. And my mind immediately went, uh-oh, something's happened. So, somebody got fired. Okay, what's going on? So I immediately swiped through the text messages, and I get on Twitter.
Not a good look for old Sat.
So somebody make it end, okay? We're doing this again around here, and it's tiresome, and I feel like we are going back into the movie again, and this movie has been done before. Some people have their moments of, we had to throw out half the playbook. Some people have their moments like yesterday. I think part of yesterday is low-hanging fruit because there's nothing more to say. So I'm probably
if you want to agitate me, you're probably not. I'm probably not the right person here on this discussion, because people are frustrated and people mocked Nebraska's OC yesterday, and they mocked the football program. I'm like, Jesus effing Christ, we're doing this again. But I will say I do have a couple of creative friends that were going, hey, you know what? Nebraska is the only school that doesn't play 12 games during the regular season. You guys are now perennially 4-6. And I went, screw you. I got angry. Friend of mine that's been a friend for 20 plus years. He dropped that on me.
Wow,
that's not now.
Yeah,
he goes,
that's pretty good.
He goes, hey, you know how you used to joke that Nebraska was 9-3? Now Nebraska is the only school in America that doesn't play 12 games. You guys are 4-6.
4-2-6.
And I'm like, and so I was pissed. I said, I hope your wife cheats on you. Now he hasn't responded to that.
Wow.
Well, because I was like,
That
I'm over this.
We are more alike.
I am over this. I
knew
fix it.
I knew you would be.
Fix it. This is okay. It's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I got nothing more to say about Marcus Satterfield except for I'm focusing on something different, which I will get to.
Okay.
Matt Rule is the CEO of this football program. Fix it.
Yep.
Okay? Fix it. You're the guy in charge. You're the guy that now has created tension with your offensive coordinator on whatever they want to do in the run game, because this has been building. Two people are talking about two different things they want to do.
Yeah.
You're in charge of the program. You've got the big headset on, okay? You can't stand up and say, no, let's do this to help our quarterback, to help our offense that has some deficiencies. Let's do something to win football games or help us be successful. Help build confidence. Help, for God's sake, score some friggin' points. I don't care about yards per play. I care about points, ma'am, and sirs, and what him and hers. That's what I care about. But you're the guy in charge of the program. Fix it. Whether it be a dismissal, a rearrangement, or a philosophy.
Yeah.
You hired the guy. Fix the problem. So that we don't have to go through this again where everybody's like, ha, 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 ha.
Well,
56-7 was bad enough? Jesus. They have doubled down this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me UTEP to play again. Go schedule Tennessee Chattanooga for a game this weekend. We need something good.
So
that's where I was yesterday.
I knew.
But the nap was good.
You are.
Now I've just burned all that energy from the nap.
You validated everything I thought you would. There are times when something happens. I'm like, okay, where might Gary go with this one? If I'm not already in communication with you, and I had a feeling you would not. I mean, you put it very, very eloquently there, but kind of over it by the time we got here, because it was played out so much yesterday. But there's one thing you bring up that I have even a stronger opinion on than the 4 to 6 yards per play. It was the other statement that he said during his media availability where he talks about the mindset. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, and I'm glad you're bringing that up, and I'm glad you played that. I'm not speaking for you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking for everybody else, and I'm not saying I'm shutting down any discussion about the 4 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
The more startling, because what happened yesterday is Marcus Satterfield had a Pedro Martinez moment. Okay, if you've ever listened to Pedro Martinez starts the clock and he starts to speak, and you have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
And
it's Michael Scott.
There's a lot of stuff in there, and then you have no idea what he said.
Then you
or
hope,
where he's going.
You hope it'll get there.
When that question was asked by Kevin Schutz yesterday, we wound the clock and here we go. And you had no idea where that was going. And I don't know if he misunderstood the question or...
Well, I have a theory on that.
Okay. But the bigger thing to me was what he said before. And I'm glad you played it, Jimmy, and I'm glad you're bringing it up, Nick. Folks, we need to focus on something that, when you're writing your epitaph, there are certain things, because Nebraska football does this to you.
Yeah.
Okay, certain people they say things publicly and you're like, yeah, Eichhorst, yeah, Frost, yeah, you said that. Diaco, yeah, you said that. Okay, we can turn back to that. The fact about the mindset and the run game in the Big Ten should just shake every core belief you've ever had about the way to play football. And that's why I say there's something going on between the head coach and the OC when it comes to the run game, because they are butting heads. Thank you for bringing that up.
And that's so my theory is, and this isn't to excuse Marcus Satterfield for what he said with that of, having to commit to it, the mindset of it. The direct quote here, I have to make sure I get in the mindset of, in order to win in this league, you have to establish the run game through the bye week and through the past week. I think we're going to work toward getting back to that for sure. Now, before that, he says it's on me. I have to commit to it.
This will be the 20th game.
Yeah.
Saturday in Columbus.
Yep. And this is where you bring up Matt Rule. I think what he said yesterday and the way Marcus Satterfield came off yesterday, this is, again, I'm the furthest from the Marcus Satterfield apologist. But to me, yesterday, what he said, trying to land the plane on it, then the embarrassing moment to end the presser, to me, that's a result of that, whatever it is, that wedge between the two philosophies offensively, what the head coach wants and what the offense coordinator wants. Because to a lesser extent, in a more articulate way, Tony White was also taking ownership. Marcus Satterfield knew he had to take ownership. I don't know this to be true. Nobody has told me this, but my guess is within 24 hours after that game on Saturday, there was a pretty heated come to Jesus moment amongst the coaching staff. And I think there was a lot of fix the problem, kind of what you just said there. Fix the problem, identify it, establish the why, and fix the problem. I think there was probably, okay, Tony, find it, fix it, get on it. Gotcha, coach. Marcus.
Yeah, and you're right. You are absolutely right. It's not, one is a good podium guy. The other is not a super polished podium guy. So it's tough to put them back to back, but you're absolutely right. Tony White has identified what ailed them on Saturday. And he probably has more of the personnel to fix what happened on Saturday.
And that's another part of this.
Because Nebraska offensively, through 7 games, in my opinion, hasn't even started to build what they could be offensively with the play call to the people that are running the actual plays.
And that's the next thing I was going to bring up is Tony White talking about the things that they didn't do well, but just having an aura of confidence that they can. It may not show up this weekend. I mean, come on, look at who they're playing. But you feel a little bit more of he's on top of it. The Marcus Satterfield part isn't necessarily because he's so absent-minded offensively that there is just no hope and prayer, because I would also think that the head coach would have diagnosed that earlier in the process, and you wouldn't be seeing Marcus Satterfield as your offensive coordinator if that was truly the case. I think it comes down to then, okay, Sat, what are we doing here? I want to see us running the football a lot more. Why are we not doing this? Why am I continuing to have this conversation with you? And probably a little bit more of a heated exchange. Again, this is just in my opinion. The way that he talked yesterday seemed like a rattled guy. But I do wonder if he says, I hear you, but with what? Who do I use? What do I use? Personnel standpoint, I want to do it too, but I don't know if we can do that. And that's another ugly reality of it. And that's why I think yesterday he knew he had to go up there and take his medicine, because I think the theme of the week for every coach was ownership, starting with Matt Rule, on me, starting with then Tony White, on me, on Marcus Satterfield, on me. But out of all three of those guys who spoke, who can really do something about it? Who can own it and then say, you see? Because then he mentioned something that I thought was also interesting, where he said, I don't want to be stupid about it. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to be stupid and just run into a wall and get 1 yard, so we're getting 2nd and 9. I gotta be able to figure out ways that we're getting that 3 to 4 yard pop, and then eventually we get that big play. That all sounds great in theory, right? But again, does the offensive coordinator have full confidence that they can pull that off? And I think yesterday it all came to a head, and I think you got what you got from him because he doesn't know what to do.
I don't know if he should have been prepared for a question like that. It is a metric. I mean, here goes back to the head coach is very much into analytics. He will quote analytics
all the time.
Most OCs have a goal number that yards per play is not a tricky question. I'm more into points per play. I'm not poo-pooing yards per play, but I'm more into points per play. But most offensive coordinators have like a number that they want to reach by game. Like he's not saying, you know what? Thank God in October we've reached 3.9 yards per play.
Yeah.
So you got to have that number in your head. I don't know if he wasn't prepared for it. I'm focusing more on that they're going into game 20 and the run game isn't a commitment. And he looks at quantity when I'm looking at what are the quality type of runs. I think that his idea of running the football is quantity. Nebraska needs quality runs. But there's also the part of something that you said, which is absolutely true. Are they playing to the strengths of guys on offense? I mean, this is really weird. Nebraska offensive line is really good at pass pro. Now they can't run block. Why are they in the shotgun, which really limits you in the quarterback handoff game because you become so predictable? So with all of that said, are you putting your guys in the best position, and are you sacrificing what you want to do and want to be a team that is at least efficient while you work through some of the things, whether it be recruiting or, you know what, maybe we're not a play action team, okay? Because we don't have the pieces to do that. So he's done it before. You know, the playbook is pretty large. You hear quarterbacks say, man, I remember Danny Kaelin showed up and he's like, man, that thing is like War and Peace. Now, it's me quoting, paraphrasing a little bit there, or just inserting a War and Peace.
And Brandon Vogel has it.
Everybody says War and Peace, and no one ever has read it. Okay?
No, I've never read it. I just know it's a really large book.
I had War and Peace. Do you scale down the playbook that it's just the best plays for what you have now, and then you start to work from there? They did it last year.
Yes.
And actually, you know, that was the story at South Carolina, is they scaled down the playbook and had a little bit more success. You know, I mean, last year's offense, which was new to Satterfield when he has to have a running quarterback, almost seemed to be more successful than this year's offense because of the element of the quarterback run game and just the wild, here we go. It just, there's no, and I've said this for a while, I mean, the offense isn't nothing new. This has been over 7 games. There's no building. I use the word pet plays. There's no, this is what we want to do, and it is in rhythm, and it just bang, 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 bang. It seems to be spin the wheel, and if we get something hot, let's do it, and then let's go back. You know, it's almost like it seems like there's a butting of heads on offense on what you want to do, but the phrase "get in the mindset," that's we've had the moment now. That's the Marcus Satterfield moment, but he's low-hanging fruit. There's nothing more to say. It's now about the guy that's in charge of the football program, what he's going to do, because that's his program.
Yeah.
That's his program to do what needs to be best to let them have success.
Well, and you know damn well that he heard that, obviously, had his own reaction to it. But that's the part about this entire 24 hours of Marcus Satterfield being a meme yesterday is, what did he say yesterday that you thought, oh, I mean, is it just because he articulated a lot of like what some of the criticism has been of, I don't know what their offensive mindset is. I don't know what they want to do offensively. I've said this many, many times. You've said this many times of, you know, what is their offensive identity? What do they truly want to do? And I think it is a very good question. In fact, I think it should be one of the questions that Matt Rule is asked on Thursday is, do you feel, and I think there's been versions of this question before, but do you feel like the guys that you have on that side of the football are being utilized in the way that everyone in that room sees that they should be utilized?
I think you stop when you start with 15.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, there's some things they can do in the run game, but I think there's some things they can do overall with him. I don't know. Yesterday was just, it's been a long week around here.
It has.
And it could be a long Saturday.
It's only Wednesday.
But there's other stuff from yesterday. I didn't like something Isaac Gifford said either. But it's all encompassing. When you lose 56-7, and I've always said, when you get squeezed, what comes out is who you are.
Yeah.
And so we're about to find, because Nebraska is being squeezed for the first time in the Matt Rule era. I said yesterday, what do you do with adversity? Because people are questioning basically everything about your operation. When before Indiana, people were like, you know what? Okay, I can see this. Okay. Now, is one game going to define the Matt Rule era?
And it could in a good way. It really could in a good way. But that's the question, that what makes yesterday so tough to swallow is I don't want to say I was energized after I heard Tony White, but I was like, all right, dude understands. They got work to do, diagnose it, and fix the problem. What did you really want to hear yesterday if you were tuned into both coordinators and the players?
People want a pound of flesh. Okay, they want Satterfield
and that's
fired.
not happening.
They want Satterfield fired.
It's not happening right now. Although yesterday it came close. I don't know. It was just, but getting back to when you have somebody up there that is also a big part of this coaching staff and is someone that is seemingly making a lot of very important decisions, when you come across as that person, you literally say things about the mindset and committing to something when people criticize that and have talked about that and have suspected this for the last however many games, and you essentially validate that. It's a bad look.
Well,
it's a really bad look.
It shows you he doesn't know how to have a vision and design of a running game. That's what the words showed you yesterday. Coming up on the show, Joey Kaufman will join us coming up at 8. Talk a little Ohio State football. Jay Moore stops by. Got some thoughts on what the Black Shirts did and can do. And also Brandon Vogel will stop by. We thought this week was going to be long. We're going to talk about other things. Talk about how the Timberwolves had a clunker. Was it as bad as the Knicks clunker last night? Nope, we're not. That's the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Off and running
hockey
on a hump day. It's Jimmy, Nick, and Gary on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, so the big NFL news this morning as you wake up, DeAndre Hopkins, process of being traded to the Chiefs for a 5th rounder that could become a 4th rounder. Brett Veach goes out and gets Patrick Mahomes some help for the offense that has skittled a bit, has some injuries to wide receivers. So Hopkins, I mean, even on a bad team last year, he was a 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's not the wide receiver that he was a couple of years ago, but still has a real useful skill set. Patrick Mahomes, touchdown passes, 2018 to now, through the first 6 games, 18, 14, 15, 18, 17, 11. This year he has 6. And so they have gone out and they have
given him help.
They've given him some help.
Yes. It's I love it for you.
Hey, the wide receiver market. So, Tampa Bay now needs a wide receiver.
Yep.
Pittsburgh has been trying to get a wide receiver.
Picked up their slot receiver on my fantasy team, by the way.
Okay.
Because Godwin's out. So, that's hopefully rating me down some fantasy points. But
we still a little over 2 weeks away from the trade deadline.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the wide receiver market's going to be pretty busy. Mike Williams is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody else from the Jets. Garrett Wilson? No?
The injuries have been insane, too, in the last month with the wideouts as well. So you've got not only teams that would have already been trying to identify a need during the trade deadline of trying to solidify the roster, but now all of a sudden you have immediate needs because of what is happening to teams and their depth at that position, too. Your Kansas City Chiefs being a perfect example of that. So these are the types of moves that I wonder how many people, when they saw that news this morning, immediately went to DeAndre's stats this year and said, what's he doing this year? How is he doing? Because, I mean, everyone knows the name and everybody knows what he did in Houston. They know what he did in Arizona. And even, as you mentioned, even last year we all know who Will Levis is, not a good quarterback. Still being able to have that production. There's something about a guy like that, that's 32 years old, in an offense like this where you can be reinvigorated, knowing that, you don't have to be the guy, but you still have that mentality in you where they will scheme and scheme and scheme and scheme to make it work with you. Like, I think a lot of the Mahomes average numbers for, his standard this year are about to go the other way.
I mean, I love the pickup because they need somebody. I still have Baltimore-Detroit as the Super Bowl on the 23rd of October.
I still really like Baltimore. Detroit, even with the losses last week, they came from behind one. Never mind. I was rooting for the Vikings in that one.
They did lose Aiden Hutchinson.
Yes, they did.
And you know what? They'll probably go out and get Max Crosby.
Yes, but okay, speaking of which, because this was brought up, the Aiden Hutchinson injury, and then it was the Godwin injury.
Yeah.
Those were brutal injuries.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing what immediate surgery and rehab can do. Neither one of those guys. Now, it's still a long shot that they would come back. Now, it would make more sense for Detroit because they would have the better shot than Tampa Bay of having a longer run in the playoffs. But neither one of their coaches and even people within the organization are saying not ready to rule them out for the season yet, depending on how long they go in the postseason. That is insane to me.
You think that's coach speak, though?
I think
because Chris Godwin is not.
No,
I mean, that's a hip drop. Tackle.
But the Dan Campbell, it could be a little bit more of the Dan Campbell rah type thing. But because he said you can never count that guy out in anything. But that timetable they said was 4 to 6 months. If you do the math in the 4 months, that would be okay if they made the Super Bowl at the earliest. But essentially, he's still saying he could buck the trend of not even 4 months. This could be, a 3.5 month thing. I'm like, what? I mean, we all saw both of those injuries, but especially the Aiden Hutchinson one. Like, no, bro, you're not coming back. Not this year. He'll come back. He ain't coming back this year. But then I heard this again with Godwin yesterday too. I'm like, whoa. I get it that we've advanced in medicine and surgery and rehab. You got all these great teams, these medical teams that can do that. But come on. Like, really? You think they're coming back this season?
Kellyanne texts in. She said when she heard Satterfield speaking 100 miles yesterday, an hour, a little bit rattled. This popped into my head, and she shares a clip from Tap Dancing Around the Witness.
I saw a lot of Michael Scott memes when he meets with David Wallace. He's like, sometimes I just talk and talk, and I hope eventually I'll find it in the midst of talking. And I just hope I'll find the point in the middle of it.
Let's take the focus off Marcus Satterfield. Let's put it on Matt Rule. Matt Rule hired him.
That's where I'm at too.
Okay,
that's where I'm at
Matt
too.
Rule is the CEO of the football program. He hired a guy who is in his trust tree that he has a relationship with. But you know what? His relationship needs to be stronger with the football program than it is with one individual. If that individual is not doing his job, then you know what? You have to figure out why he's not doing his job. How can we help him do his job better? And if there are no answers to that, you know what? You know what the answer is? Maybe we need fresh ideas. But there's nothing more to say about the OC. I'm now on to the response by the head football coach.
Just like
because
the
he's the
Foley
guy
thing.
in charge. He is the guy in charge. It is on him now. We can sit here, we can bash Satterfield, and we can look at the offense, and I can throw out every single number at you, and those numbers are not pretty, okay? Because you got to score points. Again, I'm not all caught up in yards per play. Yeah, I know it's important.
About 25 points a game.
We got to have some points per play. Got to have some points. Got to have some touchdowns. We got to allow the officials to do some aerobics and throw their arms in the air. All right? All right? You know what? We need to bring back raise the roof. All right? Maybe officials do that. Okay, there's like, oh my God, Nebraska has scored more than 30. Raise the roof.
That's the reset the clock.
But the focus to me
well.
personally is on the head coach. He's in charge of the football program. He likes where his football program is. He's not oblivious to the fact that they've got some holes that they have to fix, but they have to win football games. And what do you do to win a football game when you're saying one thing about a particular part of your offense and your OC is going about it a different way? Get on the same page. You're the guy that's on the headset, that's got the bigger headset and the louder microphone, and say, no, let's do this. Don't say it after a game. How about we say it during the game? And then after the game, you say, you know what? Sat and I got together and we made a little bit of a shift and it really worked out well. Yeah, I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to have days like yesterday where I got friggin' idiot friends of mine going, you guys used to be 9-3, used to celebrate in September. Now I can't wait to celebrate on April 6th because you guys are 4-6.
That will be a sneaky fun little day.
Guy still is not, my buddy is still not responding.
Well, that was kind of harsh though.
I was pissed.
What you left him with.
He wouldn't let it go. He was poking the bear.
Again, I hope this is
maybe
not...
I poked the bear. Maybe his wife has already cheated on him.
That's why. Okay, I was just going to say that. I'm hoping this wasn't the case.
Daughters.
But maybe there's already been something there, and then you just completely opened up a major wound.
He's actually made me feel better about some of the things I've said in the past. So I'm with you. I understand. I understand you were mad.
At some point today, I will.
Cheats on you.
At some point, I will probably apologize to him. But I wasn't having it yesterday because it was just a string of text messages from people that I know or one person that covers the sport that was having a field day. He goes, hey, we're going to have this on our rundown. I'm like,
excellent.
I'm like, yeah, all right. Okay. Remember when I was really nice to you and brought you to a Nebraska football game? It was not Brett Ciancio.
I was just thinking,
wow,
damn, Brett.
Holy cow. That just doesn't seem like Brett's nature.
I just
but okay.
got sad.
The Matt Rule part of it, I think, is where people do need to take yesterday's what the hell moment and say, isn't this all reflective of the guy making the decisions though? Because Gary, this wasn't even a 2-week thing where we heard some of the disconnect with the offensive based on what we would see on the field and then what the head coach would say he wanted to see. Okay. This goes all the way back to
they're butting heads on the running game.
Well, and even I think the use of players, when you the Heinrich Harburg thing brought up all the time, and Matt Rule always talked. Hell, Matt Rule said he agreed with fans that think Heinrich Harburg should have more of a role. He's like, I agree. So there's this has been the entire season, and this is why if this has been the thing the entire season of what you want to see and ultimately what is playing out on Saturdays, how has it gotten to this point then? How has it gotten this far to where...
I wonder if there's too many people that are having too much of a voice.
Too many cooks in the kitchen?
It's simple. Do your friggin' job. You're hired to do a job. Do the job. But are there a lot of people that are chiming in?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not in there, but
yeah.
I mean, sometimes when you get situations like this, there's a lot of people that offer a lot of opinions, but has anybody down there got a solution or a voice that says, you know what, I'm going to do my job today?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's simple as a player. We ask players to do that, right?
Yeah.
We ask coaches to do that, right?
Yep.
They ask us to do that, right?
Yep.
Okay. It kind of a Saturday because there's a lot of noise around Saturday. It does come down to just do your job. Just do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Do your job. Don't try and do anybody else's job. Don't try and have your defensive backs do something that the defensive linemen are not going to do. Do your job. It's simple, but that would be boring sports talk radio to come in here on Monday and go, you know what? Nebraska had 22 guys on the field on offense and defense to start the game and a bunch of headsets that didn't do their job. Okay, we'll take some calls now at 402-951-1620. But it's
That'd be an April Fool's
football
segment.
is simple. We complicate football with 4 and 6 and 7.5 and 7.1 and Tom Osborne wanting 6. Do your job. And if you're not doing your job, find somebody else to do your job.
Absolutely.
That's how life works.
Yep, 100%. And that, at the end of the day, that's what I thought of was, how did we get to the point that he is making an absolute fool of himself? And then you think about how they got to that point. And I'm sorry, as much as I think Matt Rule can be the answer for this program, and I think he's got the vision, and I think it is a valid one. Those little moments right there, also as embarrassing as it was for Marcus Satterfield, have to be equally as embarrassing for Matt Rule.
The CEO, I mean, now it's on his watch, and you can't let one game or one deficiency on your staff ruin what you've already built.
Yep.
All right.
You've got young talent, too, that is also trying to take their tone.
Jimmy's got an update coming up next. Coming up at 8, Joey Kaufman. We'll talk about Ohio State. We've gone this far without talking about Ohio State. A lot of people would like to say, you know what? Let's don't even talk about Ohio State this year. Just keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Let's get to that UCLA game.
Line hasn't moved much.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. It didn't shift as much as the Florida State-Miami line shifted. You guys remember what that was during the summer?
No, I actually don't.
Florida State, because that was one of the game of the year.
Yeah.
Florida State was a 1-point favorite. You know what they are now?
It's 22, isn't it?
Yeah, but in that range, 21 and a half, underdog. So the Nebraska line hasn't shifted much. Small victories. Small victories on a Tuesday, bad victory on a Tuesday, bad day on a Tuesday, small victories on a Wednesday. Celebrate them with your friends and family and strangers you may meet along the way, whether they become friends and family or not. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, shout out to our friends on the stream. Best part of every morning. It's not just the best part of waking up. It's Folgers in your cup. All right. That's not my endorsement. Amari Bynum commits to Ohio State yesterday, and Nebraska misses out on what would have been a marquee in-state addition to its 2025 recruiting class. The 6'8" former Omaha Bryan power forward chose the Ohio State University over offers from Nebraska, Creighton, Iowa State, and Xavier, among others. He visited Nebraska the weekend of September 7th, was on the field at Memorial Stadium before the Huskers football game against Colorado. He then officially visited Ohio State a month later. Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run ball from this Major League season sold for just under $4.4 million at an auction, including buyer's premium, shattering the record paid for a baseball or any sports ball for that matter. Hopefully, one of his kids doesn't accidentally take it to go play with his friends on the sandlot, and then a dog chews it, and never mind. The previous most expensive baseball was Mark McGwire's record-breaking 70th home run ball from the 1998 MLB season, which Spawn creator Todd McFarlane paid $3 million for in early 1999. Well, all that just brings back a lot of memories. Ohtani's 50th home run ball cemented him as the only player in the sport's history to eclipse 50 home runs and 50 steals in a season. Speaking of Shohei, his team, the Dodgers, will go with Jack Flaherty for Game 1 of the World Series, pitting him against Garrett Cole at Dodger Stadium Friday night. Dodgers first baseman Freddie Freeman, who had spent all month playing through a sprained right ankle, says he expected to be in the lineup. Major League Baseball hopes to find the Tampa Bay Rays a temporary home near their fan base, like Omaha? Some fans in Iowa, maybe? Anyway, at least for the start of the 2025 season, if damage to Tropicana Field from Hurricane Milton cannot be repaired in time. The translucent fiberglass dome at the ballpark in St. Petersburg was shredded by Milton's winds, leaving its immediate future in doubt. A number of spring training sites around the Tampa Bay area have been suggested as temporary homes. Rob Manfred said the league wants a location in the region as possible, or he's going to move another team to Las Vegas. Something like that. Hey, it was Frozen Frenzy last night in the NHL as all 32 teams played. 16 won, 16 lost. So it goes. Nick, I hear you were sad last night.
Oh, the Hawks are awful. Connor Bedard's great. Hawks are awful.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Apparently the Bruins lost to the Predators as well.
Becoming a distant memory.
Yeah. No kidding. Hey, opening night in the NBA, Joey Celtics raised banner number 18. I know, Walter, garbage can. I know. Then they beat the Knicks 132-109. In the late game, the Lakers beat Omaha's Minnesota Timberwolves 110-103. LeBron James and a member of his family played in the game together. The timeline to return for injured Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke is coming into focus as Rourke's prognosis has improved after he underwent surgery on his injured right thumb on Monday. The successful surgery provided some clarity on a potential return, including optimism that he could be back for Indiana's game at Michigan State next Saturday. Rourke is still doubtful for Indiana's home game against Washington on Saturday. Rourke has led Indiana to their historic 7-0 start and stunningly ushered them into the conversation around the college football playoff. And finally, congratulations to Sam Houston. Remember, the school, not the person. He's dead. As Jace Bauer threw for 76 yards and rushed for 72 more in his first career start as the Bearcats, spelled with a K, held off Florida International, spelled with an F, 10-7 on Tuesday night to become bowl eligible in their first season following a 2-year transition to the FBS. At 6-2 and 3-1 in their league, Sam Houston becomes the fourth consecutive program to make the transition up and become bowl eligible within the first 2 seasons of being in the FBS, joining Jacksonville State in 2023, Big Jim in 2023, and Liberty in 2018.
The best part about that game, J.P. Pickles at the UTEP game. J.P. Pickles almost led a thunderous comeback. It just came up short, but we had Pickles last night.
Midweek football is a blessing that we should never overlook.
No.
Especially this time of the year.
We get Maction soon.
We do. And last night we got the Miami Vice uniforms worn by FIU, and they had a yacht on the sidelines.
Nice.
Is Nevin Shapiro out of prison?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he bamboozled Barry Alvarez, amongst others.
Yeah. But you know what? That's now things are legal.
That's true.
You can do whatever you want.
You think he wants to see that now expunged from his record? He's like, what I did? Okay, maybe the legality of it, of a Ponzi scheme.
Hey, you guys want something, a little history here? So I got to look up. I'm pretty sure that it's Halloween night.
Next Thursday?
In the Summit League, the only college volleyball team that is unbeaten is South Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
And they rallied to win in 5 last night against South Dakota. They hadn't beaten South Dakota like in 18 straight matches. And I think South Dakota State and South Dakota play football this weekend. So, like, all of their fall teams play each other this week, like the rivalry week.
Yes.
So South Dakota State volleyball is 19-0. Omaha won last night to go to 7-1 in the conference. Yes, Halloween.
I just saw
South
that too.
Dakota State is at Baxter Arena next Thursday night. South Dakota State, who I imagine maybe has 1 or 2 matches before they play Omaha, could come here unbeaten. So they're 19-0. They're the only unbeaten team in college volleyball, and they'll be here on Halloween night against an Omaha team that is playing really, really well in the Summer League. So there you go. Put that on your calendar. You can trick or treat at Baxter Arena.
A spooktacular evening. They didn't do any. I was surprised by this. They didn't do anything this last weekend for. Usually they have like a Halloween theme as far as the series before Halloween, because they don't play another home series for hockey until after Halloween. So they didn't do anything. So there's your chance right there. They're probably going to do it that night for the volleyball game on the actual day. So that's kind of cool.
A couple emails here. This is from Zach into the Equitable Bank inbox. Satterfield should be an OC in the Mountain West, not the Big Ten. He's in way over his head in the Big Ten. Jeff writes in, Gary, I'm 52 years old. This is not a problem of hanging heads when they get down or any BS like that. It is simply Nebraska cannot run the ball since Pelini left. It is simple. End of story. I know that's not good business for radio programs and media. Just like saying, just do your job. But you know, and I know, and John Bishop knows, it's simply John Bishop. I think he might be lumping us all in because we're older.
The old guard.
We're the veterans.
Yeah, you are.
I know that's not good business for radio programs and media, but you know, and I know, and John Bishop knows, it is simply because we cannot run the ball. Haven't been able to run the ball for years. If we could run the ball, everything else would open up. Nebraska is stuck with Uncle Donnie. They do not have the men in the trenches to run an offense that fits Dillon. Nebraska cannot run the ball. Peace. That is from Jeff.
As far as an effective running game that you could actually hang your hat on, he's not wrong. I mean, the last time that you actually got excited about Nebraska's running game, I guess maybe the outlier was 2018, Zigbo and what they did in the running game from that standpoint. But again, you also had the element of the quarterback run game on top of that with Adrian. But Devon Zigbo was actually a feature back, if we could say that. A guy that could actually rip off some of those big plays where you would get the explosives that this offense and some in previous years have lacked. So it's, for the most part, I think, a valid point.
It's a bad combination. They have running backs that are okay, don't have great vision, don't have great burst against an offensive line that is better pass pro than they are run blocking, and the excitement with no real like quarterback run threat. So I think Dillon I think Dillon could scramble. You're not asking him to, run a triple option.
Yeah.
But I do think that if need be, he could run for some yardage. I think there is so much a fear of failure with him right now that they have put the governors on Dylan Raiola. But about the run game is you are not helping your offensive line if you continue to want to run the ball out of the shotgun with just one threat in the backfield. And Nebraska is so predictable. Everybody is getting at us and saying Alex Bullock is the difference. Put Alex Bullock in the game at wide receiver. You know what Alex Bullock in the game does for you?
Blocks.
Makes Nebraska even more predictable.
Yeah, because he's not, what they're doing.
They're not going to run many routes with him.
Right.
They're going to put him in the game and they're going to say, that's our best perimeter blocking. So we're running the
Guess
football.
where we're going.
Okay,
exactly.
So part of the Satterfield discussion is they're a little bit limited on people's strengths, but it is your job to then find your strengths and play to that, even if it goes against everything in your being of what you want to do. And in the run game, they may have to change going under center because the line right now is looking at safeties that have crept down to the box because they're like, well, you know what? Nebraska's not going to be able to beat us with wide receivers.
Right.
I mean, we can basically play man coverage and we're going to play up on the run. And all of a sudden you got Dillon has seen an extra guy and they're running out of the shotgun. So it's, it's more It's more difficult for the offensive line. You're playing the numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They have to fix the run game, whether it be for Saturday, whether it be for the rest of November, or moving forward. Nebraska football doesn't move forward unless they get better in the trenches. Bottom line. Thank you very much. Now you can all go home. But remember to listen to the show till 10.
And to that point, because I brought this up yesterday when I was watching that game again, there was a handful of plays out of the shotgun that they ran the football. And I think it was I'll say 10 was the number. It might have been like 8, maybe 9. But at least 6 of those plays, running back it's got a crowded backfield already. Okay, so he's having to make a move as soon as that point of engagement after he gets the football is already behind the line of scrimmage. Now, we've seen at times when Nebraska's gone I formation, at times when they've brought in a lead blocker, that
Liebentritt, by the way, killed a Hoosier.
Yeah.
I am surprised that they let him get on the plane and come back to Lincoln because he absolutely destroyed a guy on a block.
And if that's
what he's kind of been doing all year.
Right. And then, okay, that's a good thing to bring up.
No. That would be no
the mindset.
Nope. You can't go there. Can't go there because that'd be too simple. Can't go there. Don't even start.
What was one of the great plays that
quality over quantity?
The great plays that wasn't to be as well in the Illinois game, where you can line up in that type of personnel. Like they're going to run. Okay, you're running. You're beating them a few times, maybe. At least getting 4 to 6 yards.
4 and 6.
But
what are we going to be doing on April 6th? We're going to be celebrating.
Figure that out, yeah.
You know what?
We got to get very offensive.
What is Governor Pillen doing? Is he going to anoint that as Marcus Satterfield Day in Nebraska? It's April 6th?
It's points per play day. Everybody have a play day.
Why?
For 4 to 6 hours.
Why can't we have some? You know, things were like okay around here until Saturday at 11 o'clock.
It's a 4 to 6 hour work day. There you go. On the 6th.
Why can't Nebraska volleyball play every day? And just crush people. And you know what? When Merritt Beeson is set and she spikes it and it goes off somebody else's noggin.
And then she asks to see if she's okay.
God. Yeah, they do. They all stop and pause before they dap each other up. They're like, "Are you okay? You're bleeding from your face."
Right.
But are you okay? I can see, what is it? What do they use? The volleyball is Baden?
Yes.
So it's got Baden across the girl's forehead?
Yeah, I first noticed that.
That's what we need. We need Nebraska volleyball to play every single day from here on out.
Take out some of that aggression, and the players can too. When Krause did it against Creighton, I noticed that. And then now it's just a running thing. The fact that you actually do have to stop before you celebrate with your team after a point and check on the other team multiple times, I'd say that's a good sign. I'm no volleyball expert, but I'd say if you're putting it down with that type of force and you're having to say, "You good?" That's a good sign. But yes, back to the running game. It's there are things that can be designed off of those formations too. Mind you, maybe a little bit more in red zone type territory, like Nebraska was against Illinois. Although they weren't really even in the red zone of that one. They were outside the 20 on the pass that Dylan missed against Illinois, but they ran out of a heavy set. Just the fact that you can line up that way, that it's in the playbook, that you have another blocker, like all those things. To me, again, when you're beating your head against the wall on the current way you're running the football and it's not working, why wouldn't you?
Well, there needs to be a little pre-snap motion.
Sure.
I would like to see them run more play action. I don't know why they're not. I think a little bit of it is back to they have such a fear of failure and a fear of a mistake with Dylan. I said they need to slow the game down because his thinking, he's about a half second off.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. And it might be dangerous against the SP plus number 1 defense in the country in Ohio State and the number 2 stop rate team in the country. By the way, Nebraska fell to 24th in that category. I think they just need to let Dylan go play.
I'd like to see what that looks like.
Just let him go play.
Yeah.
Just let him go play. He's gone 9 quarters without a touchdown pass. Let him go play.
Yep.
And that includes passing and running. But I think there is such a hesitation right now of a mistake is going to be a back-breaking one.
And I get the feeling the way that he's talked about that his input is valued. It should be. I mean, he sees a lot of things. He's ahead. I think just his understanding of the game and how to process the game and what teams want to throw at him. I think he's probably ahead of his time based on the experience that he has with what he's been up around. There's a reason that I still think the way. I mean, just listen to him yesterday.
Thanks, CJ.
What's that?
Said he can't run motion. Ben Hart will jump. Why? I hate this. God, 35-24
He's not
would
wrong.
have been 35-24 would have been so much better. It
He's
would
not
have been nice. We have a
wrong.
loss. Hey,
That's not a.
I'm actually going to like that.
You should.
Like that.
That really is good. How much of the conversation every week is Dylan sitting down with Glenn Thomas, Marcus Satterfield, and Dylan Raiola, and even if Matt Rule's in on these, sitting down saying, "What do you like? What do you feel confident in?" And how much of that is actually applied? Like how much of his input is heard and then put into what they want to do? I'd be curious about that. I mean, I'm legitimately curious about that.
All valid questions that we will field and send to Jay Moore, who will join us coming up at 9. Brandon Vogel as well. Joey Kaufman stops by with the Ohio State perspective.
There was very little talk about Nebraska yesterday.
That's coming up at 8:00 in the
press conference. A weird press
Ohio
conference.
State.
Yeah. Weird press conference, very little talk. The only thing brought up about Nebraska was Dylan, but it was also in a bigger picture question about the decommitment / transfer quarterback era in college football, which was a funny question considering that they're starting a transfer quarterback. But that was the only thing that was Nebraska related that I picked up.
Great. Fantastic.
But to their defense, though, to the press pool's defense, I got the feeling all the questions that were being asked, I don't think Ryan Day did a presser last week during the bye week. I don't think he gave them that week. So there was a lot of the Oregon game still being answered.
When we come back, Ohio State has already beaten Nebraska this week. We'll get into that when we come back on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Underdog Fantasy is a place to play if you are a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players across 33 states and $2 billion, one Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in all your favorite athletes' performance. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. With Underdog's double flex option, you can even take 2 L's and still have your entry be a win. This is good to know for me. Follow the hot hand or go against the cold one with partial picks and selections. This week on Underdog, I'm trying out the NBA. Apparently, it's easier than I even thought. So I'll be writing that until baseball returns on Friday night. This season, Underdog will be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day this month. Like Profit Boost, you can pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. Or discounts, you can get adjusted projections on certain player stats to give you a better shot at a big W. And with free picks, they're basically a sure thing. Just like my Jalen Brunson pick last night. A player just has to get higher than half a point for that pick to win, plus all new users get a free pick. How to do it? It's currently Boosttober. From now until October 27th, you can boost your profit on all NBA entries by 20%. Underdog is literally giving you unlimited profit boosts to make basketball picks. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, Big East Media Day is today in New York City, which will be carried on Peacock. If you're a Creighton fan, make friends with Peacock.
Yep.
So Peacock is carrying the entire media day. Peacock is also going to carry the 3 games on Wednesday at the Garden in the Big East tournament and the morning games or the daylight games. And then FS1 gets the nighttime. Big Fox gets the semis and the championship. So Peacock is going to have a very much a Big East flavor.
They might have a Big East code. Maybe you can get a discount if you have a Big East code. Big East 25.
But Big East Media Days have started today, or they're about to start. Very, very shocking news coming out of the league. Ryan Kalkbrenner has been named the preseason player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are wondering, I think you spelled Cam Jones incorrectly. No, they did not. Ryan Kalkbrenner, preseason player of the year, and will be the player of the year at the end of the year. That's my prediction. The Big East coaches poll, UConn number 1, Creighton number 2, Xavier, Marquette, St. John's, Providence, Villanova, Butler, Georgetown, Seton Hall, and DePaul, which features a former Ohio State head coach. So Mr. Hurley is number 1 again. So that's coming up later today. I think Kalkbrenner and Ashworth are the 2 representatives for Creighton in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Nebraska, Ohio State, Ohio State has already beaten Nebraska this week. Haven't even gotten to this horseshoe.
Well, I think most people would say, yeah, it sounds about right. But I think there's, you just want to throw actually something developing with that.
So Ohio State 1, Nebraska nothing. Nebraska lost out on a basketball recruit yesterday, Amari Bynum. The former Omaha Brian Baer, the 4-star, 6'8", who is going to a prep school this upcoming year, visited Columbus back on the 7th of October. Would that have been the Iowa game? Was he there on his official visit for the Iowa weekend?
For Ohio State?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah. So he was there earlier in the month, and he has committed to Ohio State. I didn't do it during our show. I knew that he wasn't going to Nebraska, and I said Amari Bynum is coming up. So about noon, he announced that he's going to Ohio State. So where did Nebraska miss out? On an Omaha kid that doesn't want to stay in state, even though he's not living in state right now. Come on, Fred.
Damn it, Fred. Got to win those battles. Do you ever expect the marquee player in Omaha, even as you mentioned, not here right now, but was with Omaha, Brian, the likelihood that person, even with a Nebraska offer, would go to Nebraska?
I mean, I think he was about to commit to Nebraska.
Oh, really? Okay. See, and you know this way better than I would on it, but so it was yesterday when I saw the news, and again, this is more of the Ohio State side of it. They made sure that they mentioned he chose the Buckeyes over Iowa, Colorado, and LSU. And then it said, also being from Nebraska, held offers from Creighton and Nebraska, but it was made to believe that those 2 weren't even under consideration, according to the Ohio State rival site. So that's why I said, okay, Nebraska maybe had more of a puncher's chance.
It furthers the belief that Swimtown hates Nebraska basketball and that nobody from Omaha or central Nebraska will go to Nebraska, that the only way you go to Nebraska, being a Nebraskan, is you go somewhere else and then you come back and you play for Nebraska, which is kind of an interesting philosophy. So Ohio State has a ton of money, NIL, for basketball, and that's why he's at Ohio State. Jake Diebler, the head coach, they have invested, and I'm not sure where it comes from, but when Holtman was out, Diebler was in, they had an influx of money. This is an NIL victory. This is a huge NIL victory where Nebraska didn't want to get into a bidding war. Creighton had already backed off because you not only get the son, you get involvement from dad. So Omar played at Iowa State. Anybody that has seen Amari play, and I really like Amari, nice kid. I like how he plays. I like how he's grown. I remember seeing him playing AAU basketball, and he was like in 7th grade, and he had kind of that body. I mean, his dad was a baller.
Yeah.
he had kind of that body. You're like, this kid's going to be a player. And then as he's grown into it, he's turned into a really, really nice player, and he's worthy of his ranking. But dad is very involved in his career. And so, some schools, hey, your dad and parents are not signing with us.
Yeah.
You're signing with us. If that's the case, we're in a gots-to-go situation. Good luck on your journey. So that comes with this situation. But Nebraska got out of the bidding war. They had a price. Ohio State went higher, and Nebraska said, hey, you do what's best for you. Just remember, if things don't work out, you've already got an established relationship with us. And so he chooses Ohio State. Now, it brings into question about basketball, NIL, and maybe football is tied into this a little bit as well. But I know this is Hoiberg's philosophy, and it's not just his philosophy. I think probably Mac is like this as well. Is in NIL, I think we're going to see in basketball, more coaches are hesitant to give big money to unproven high school kids. Now, Cooper Flagg isn't walking into everybody's program.
Right.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
But you're hesitant to give NIL to unproven high school talent, but the portal talent, you're probably going to spend more.
Yeah.
I think that's Nebraska's philosophy. I think for Nebraska, that's a good philosophy. I'm not 100% certain about Creighton, but I could see that being the case. Now, Creighton's able to recruit the higher high school player than Nebraska is right now, but that's Fred's philosophy. And in this case, they had a price. Ohio State went higher, and they said, thank you. You know who we are. We're right here. Hope it works out at Ohio State. We wish you well every game except for when you play Nebraska. And if things don't work out, you know what? Give us a call.
Yeah. And I know that it's not the most popular thing to be okay with that, because whether we're talking football, baseball, basketball, whatever the sport might be, volleyball even, although I have a tough time believing that the very top tier talent isn't going to always have Nebraska on their mind even before they get that official offer. But for Nebraska basketball in this case, this goes all the way back to Tim Miles, of local talent having Nebraska on the radar but not coming in. That was always seen as a major problem with the overall recruitment and building the roster at Nebraska. When you do have the talent in state, you got to be able to do that. Well, you and I both know. I mean, there's a lot more that comes with it, of just staying in state and trying to be loyal to the in-state university. You want to go somewhere, you want to know that you're going to win. And especially if you have that type of talent. Like Bynum's a 4-star guy. You have that type of talent. But you go all the way back to, even in Tim Miles, what they were doing other than the 2014 season was above average, as opposed to some of the other schools that were maybe after certain players. But now you throw the NIL element into it.
Why are we going back to the Miles era?
Oh no, I'm just talking about not being able to get a lot of some of the local guys that.
But Fred and Nate Lesnar are different recruiting the state. They have recruited the state really, really well.
Yeah, no, but I'm using the difference between the name, image, likeness era compared to when you didn't have it. But when people were like, okay, why can't we get any of the in-state talent? The part of what you bring up there, that if it comes out that there was a player or two that were in the state of Nebraska that you could have got going into their freshman year, but they wanted more money than you were comfortable with, there's going to be some people are going to be like, well, I don't care. You pay that person the money. You make sure that you make them a priority and you keep them here. I would agree with you, though. I don't know if you, I shouldn't say, because I don't know if you totally agree with that philosophy that Fred and maybe Mac have. Makes sense to me, though, when it comes to the section that you could see that were kind of the one and done, like the Cooper Flags. Those guys are rare, and you have no problem paying that because you understand how good those guys are going to be. And that's without question going to translate at the collegiate level early on. They're going to be a starter, as opposed to a guy that you're going to bring in, you think has the chops, but are they coming in right away to start? That's another thing, that if they're coming in right away, they're going to be a starter, and you have no hesitation whatsoever, okay, go ahead, give them the bag. But if you do have hesitation with that, and you have a number that you're comfortable with, but then you're pushed to exceed that number, I have no problem with that, because the success rate for incoming freshmen, I don't have the numbers in front of me of what it is now compared to what we saw in a lot of those the high-end freshmen are coming in the one-and-done era. But it seems like we're seeing a lot of guys, and I know NIL has something to do with this too, but you're seeing a lot of guys that are sticking around a lot longer that probably went in thinking they're only going to be here a year or two tops. Now you're seeing them on senior day because that development's been a little bit more slow go. So kind of what we talked about with football. Why not retain and reward as opposed to give it all up front and hope that it works out?
At the end of the day, Nebraska basketball has to win. Look at William Kyle III.
Mm-hmm.
Where's he at?
UCLA.
How many championships they have?
A lot more Nebraska.
Frankie Fiddler. Where's he at?
Michigan State.
How many championships they have?
The last one in the Big Ten.
Now, Chucky Hepburn in Nebraska were not going to happen at all. He's at Louisville. They won a national championship. I mean, the bounce back for Nebraska has to be an emotional tie. Sam Griesel.
Yep.
Josiah Alec. Okay, those two guys grew up in Lincoln. So they grew up as Nebraska basketball fans. The Mike Dobbs and the Baylor Shiremen's that got away probably were not on the level to play in the Big Ten. They went somewhere else. They went to South Dakota State. They developed. One stayed his entire career there. The other was a coach's decision last night in the NBA for the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
Nebraska needs to win. They need to win, and they consistently need to start stacking seasons so that they have something, whether it be an in-state guy that is in high school or is in the portal, that you say, man, if I go there, we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can walk into PBA and look up in the rafters and go, there's a banner. Man, we're going to be playing in March. We're going to be playing on the second week.
Yeah.
Because when we're playing on the second weekend of March, or we even get to that third weekend, look at all the people that are watching me, and that's where I want to go. I want to play in the NBA. So there is the NIL, and they were competitive. I mean, they had a good relationship with Bynum. At the end of the day, Ohio State decided to go higher than what Nebraska was willing to do, and I'm okay with that. Fred has a limit. You in your mind, you say this kid can help us on this level, and this is what we think he's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to sit here and get into a bidding war because we're going with our highest offer. This is what we believe, but we're not going to sit here and go back and forth.
Yeah.
And good luck, and we'll move on to our next target.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened in this situation.
And I think, again, we talked a lot about this when it came to football. And actually what was interesting before even Dylan had flipped his commitment from Georgia to Nebraska, a lot of the conversation, even when it seemed like it was all but a done deal that he was going to Georgia, I remember you and I having the same conversation on the air a few times of that relationship that you continue to nourish as much as you can from a staying within the guardrail standpoint of it, where you're not tampering. But you have those relationships that you continue to nourish because you never know at some point, is that going to come back and benefit you in a year or two when a guy is all of a sudden feeling, hey, you know what? It's not what I hoped it would be. Now you start going back to those previous relationships. Same thing in basketball too. It seems like it's a lot more volatile, but in a way in basketball, I still think the product itself is starting to get better from the standpoint of you're seeing guys stick around a little bit longer, maybe not with the same team, but you're seeing a lot of players. And I think the NBA really likes this, that these players are now sticking around for 3 or 4 years. Again, maybe and most likely not with the same program unless you're in the elite programs, but you're getting that type of bounce back opportunity far more than you ever did even 10 years ago.
Coming up at the top of the hour, Joey Kaufman will stop by from the Columbus Dispatch to talk Ohio State football. Jay Moore, Brandon Vogel, still on the docket for this Wednesday edition that has included DeAndre Hopkins going to the Chiefs. The unfortunate news that we wake up to that Fernando Valenzuela has passed away at the age of 63, and a declaration by the governor of the state of Nebraska, former Husker Jim Pillen, that coming up on April 6th will from now and forever be known as Marcus Satterfield Day.
We are yet to get a response from the governor's office.
There's always UCLA coming up on November 2nd, and gosh, that game's going to be at 2:30. That's going to be wonderful. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
The band's legendary 1976 farewell concert, The Last Waltz, hailed as the greatest live concert event of all time. You can experience the magic of that historic night with a new star-studded lineup with the Life is Carnival Last Waltz Tour 24, Tuesday, October 29th at the Orpheum Theater. The Heartbreakers together for the first time since Tom Petty's passing, plus more special guests. Listen to the Connor Happer Show all week to win your way into the show, and you can get details at 1620thezone.com.
So last night in the NBA, Baylor Shireman was a coach's decision. So, and you thought, okay, Boston blitzed the Knicks, and they had 29 threes, and they were chasing the record like in the last 8 minutes.
That was kind of fun.
They couldn't hit anything. And you're sitting thinking, okay, they're going to slip Shireman into the game.
What was the one sequence they had 6 attempts, missed all of them?
Jason Tatum was on one.
Yeah,
I think he tried to win the MVP
last night. He
last
looked
night.
kind of pissed off last night, which was kind of cool.
Well, he wants to win the MVP.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's not like he played in the Olympics.
Yeah, that's true. He did now that was the whole thing. Guy just came off an NBA title and a gold. Yeah, but he's rested from that one. Didn't play a lot.
I didn't even, so Shireman made the opening day of Celtics roster, and it was a coach's decision. I didn't even see him on the bench.
I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Maybe he was in the stands.
He'd have to be on the bench to be on the box
Yeah,
score.
I'm pretty sure I saw him.
But I was like, okay, is he going to come in? Going to come in? Going to come in? Did not come in. So if you stayed up last night, the Lakers and the Timberwolves played, and the Timberwolves did not look very good. Anthony Davis had a monster night.
Yeah.
And it was defense. I mean, he had blocked Gobert at the rim, and the Lakers looked really, really good. But the moment was LeBron and Bronny played in a game together.
Yep.
So they checked in together.
Didn't you, real quickly, didn't you bring this up a couple weeks ago when we knew that
I could care less about Bronny James?
No. That
You
when
too,
we were
huh?
getting closer to this moment that was inevitable, that I wonder if the Griffies will be there. I thought it was you who brought that up.
Oh.
And, of course, they were.
Because the Hows couldn't be there.
That's true. Well, yes, for obvious reasons, but yes. But I thought that was you who brought that up.
So
and I remember
let's-
seeing in the pregame the pictures. I'm like, oh, my gosh,
mean,
there he is. There they are.
I can't get, I can't get all fired up about this. Part of it is a photo op. Some of it seems staged.
Yep.
It was drafting him for his dad.
Yep.
I think there's probably, if you're a father, it's pretty cool because father and son get to play together. My dad never asked me to play in the NBA. So I'm
Yours too, huh?
Yeah, we all feel a little bit slighted there.
Same here.
The kid's got to carve out his own path, and the NBA will take care of him. Now, they got it big on the Timberwolves last night, so this was a time to insert him. For the family, it's cool. I mean, as a dad, if you're a dad and you get a chance to do something with your son, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can see where people are conflicted because it can turn into a sideshow, disrespectful to the game that you admire. Bronny played 3 minutes last night. But it's not going to bother me. That's not my team.
And
if that
down in the middle of the second.
and if they are clearly not a serious operation that they feel like, hey, we got to go from 3 to 17, we got to skip the G League, then that's on them. That doesn't impact me. I think the bigger story about watching that game last night, and by the way, I missed the Inside the NBA guys.
I know.
When they came on my TV at 5 o'clock last night, I stared and I said, I missed you.
Hello, friends.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a repeat. LeBron James does not get enough credit for what he's doing.
He's aged well. Can't take that
Doesn't
away
he?
from him. Still looks pretty
You don't
good.
think he does?
Nope.
I'm with you on that.
I know you said you were going to stay up and watch the game.
Yeah.
Did you see what he did in the first half last night?
Yeah.
Okay. You know how old he is?
Almost. Well, he's not quite as old as me. But
Almost
yes.
as old as
He
us.
is 40
Yeah.
years old.
Mhm.
LeBron James is 40 years old, and I don't think we give him enough credit for playing at the game at that level at the age of 40. We get all excited about 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, Tom Brady didn't look 40-plus.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers looks 40 years old on some of his throws.
Mhm.
When golfers are 40 and over, we're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, one more
I
in him.
think this is where and there, if you're a hater of LeBron, I want you to pause for a moment and just listen to me. With a guy like that playing in that sport, where there are so many guys that are 15, 16, 17 years younger than he is that are at the top of that sport, when you are 40 years old and you are still performing at that level, you have to be more athletic and more explosive than those guys that are 15 years younger than you.
Right.
And he's doing that at the age of 40. what he is doing at the age of 40 is so much greater than any quarterback or golfer that is at the height of their sport at the age of 40. Because I can be a 40-year-old quarterback and sit back in the pocket, and I know nobody's going to touch me.
Yeah. No, that's the reason I say don't we, because I know you brought this up a lot on the show, and I think it does get at least its mention. I'll find myself listening to the Hoop Collective podcast every now and then, just because I like Wendy. I feel like if there's a LeBron moment, and not just because it's Brian Windhorst and his relationship, I feel like it's documented. I feel like any of, whether you're watching Inside the NBA, whether you're watching whatever highlight show you want to see, that it usually starts and stops with what LeBron did. But now you got me thinking, there's a difference between the LeBron highlights from a game compared to, have we just taken his presence for granted to where, like you just said, the dude is 40 years old. And to your point, in the first half, he's baseline to baseline at a rapid pace to where he's beating guys down the floor.
He's still hammering dunk on guys.
And almost hitting his head on the rim in doing so, where he still has that energy level. Maybe it's the finite part of his age and those small details of the RPMs of which he's still moving at. Maybe that isn't talked about. So I'll entertain that part of it. But I think his presence, is still always getting its attention. I think when you see people in Los Angeles, whether they're courtside or at the game, when he does something compared to even an Anthony Davis, you get that much more of a roar of the crowd. You get that much more appreciation from the crowd. So I do think that that's there. But it's fair to say, okay, they're going to show all the great things that LeBron does. Do you know his age? And does he look any slower than he did, say, at 32?
Nope.
And he doesn't. And to that point, I would agree with you on.
You're a dad. By the way, did you go and pick up your son?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, he was very excited.
Nice.
Yeah, he was really excited.
But as a dad, your response to LeBron getting to play with his son, who it's not his fault, he's on the Laker roster.
I thought it was really cool. We know how it got there, okay? Once you've made peace with that, because that was part of the reason I wanted to tune in, is to see, and then we learned right before the game that Rob Pelinka said that, that JJ Redick was going to play him and most likely be in the first half as long as, the game wasn't nut cutting. And thank you to the Timberwolves who allowed that to happen.
Jesus.
When and then the mic'd up part of it too was kind of cool, because in a way you mentioned, I can only imagine if I'm in any type of competitive environment where, now I'd be a lot older when my son is Bronny's age. I'd be like, okay, go get him, son. But to see goes from teammate to dad advice. That was kind of cool. I got to admit, as much as I knew it was coming and as much as I knew that whole thing was manufactured, I knew it was coming. The other thing is, and these are those moments in sports that I think I love when they show the slow motion, and we're seeing this right now in the postseason of Major League Baseball, is when there is a big home run or someone makes contact and you see slow motion and you see the entire crowd get up with that look on their face of, because they know something big's about to happen. This was like that, but instead of that, it was, everybody got the cameras out. They wanted to take a picture of it. But I can only imagine, especially, and I assume LeBron did this last night when the game was over. You're going through social media or even your own collage of pictures, and the amount of pictures that were being shown of him holding up a little baby Bronny while he's in uniform winning the title. And now then there's that split picture of that and then him right next to him checking into the scorer's table. That had to be pretty amazing. And I think they knew it was coming, and I think it probably still didn't set them up for the emotions, especially what LeBron. I don't know. I would say it was more impactful for LeBron than it was for Bronny, because you've watched him develop as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool, as opposed to Bronny, who's probably just like, I don't want to screw this up. Like, if I get the ball, I want to make sure that I'm making the right decisions. I want to people, and kind of what we're talking about. There's a lot of people, and I don't waver on this. He shouldn't be up there. I mean, he was an average college player.
Yeah, not my problem. I'm not a Laker fan.
Right.
Okay.
But
I am Dalton Connect, though. Great pickup.
He's probably
a great draft pick.
Bronny's probably got a lot of different emotions of, oh my God, this really happened, as opposed to LeBron, where you can sit back. You've done everything in the NBA. You can sit back and really appreciate that moment.
All right, we'll get back into football. Let's talk some Ohio State football. Everybody excited to learn more about the Buckeyes, who are coming off a loss in a bye week?
I heard they're good.
Joey Kaufman will join us next. A little bit later, Jay Moore and Brandon Vogel on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, Saturday, Nebraska and Ohio State, which seems like since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, they get to play Ohio State every year.
Yeah, it's becoming an annual tradition.
At some point, we'll make it a little
Friday.
bit easier on Joey
Okay.
Kaufman, who covers Ohio State for the Columbus Dispatch. 25.5-point spread this weekend as Nebraska comes in off the Indiana loss. Ohio State comes off a loss, but off a bye, and Joey joins us now. Good morning, Joey. Welcome back to 1620 The Zone in Omaha.
Hey, good to talk to you guys.
Hey, you know what the passion of the fans are around here and talk shows and writers and what they get, especially off a 56-7 loss. We're listening to Ryan Day yesterday, and Ohio State is still in the playoff mix. They're coming off a 1-point loss to the number one team in the country. They're 5-1. I'm listening to that, and I think Ohio State is 1-5. What is Nebraska walking into at Ohio Stadium on Saturday?
I think it's a team that is in Ohio State that is restless, that's a little frustrated, and that's largely because I think they were in position to win that Oregon game. They get up in the game early and sort of let Oregon climb back. I think the tension, at least in Columbus right now, is just how Ohio State performs in those quote unquote matchup games where they're playing teams with an equal skill set and talent, and Oregon was supposed to be a great barometer, and it really was in that sense. And Ohio State obviously came up on the losing end of that one, and sort of all the ways you don't want to see if you're Ohio State, giving up explosive plays, which was their Achilles heel 2 years ago when their national championship aspirations came up short. Some of the clock management stuff toward the end of the game, and questions about Ryan Day's game management. So all those, I think, factored into maybe the feeling around these parts that Ohio State is still not quite ready to win it all. And it's a high standard, but that's sort of where things are right now in Columbus.
Joey, another part of what I noticed in the press conference with Ryan Day was a lot of conversation about Jim Knowles, the lack of pressure put on Dylan Gabriel, but also throughout the season where they felt like the pass rush would be a lot more dominant. Did it seem like, is there, think of disconnect or some give and take when it comes to philosophies defensively? It seemed like that was a theme yesterday. What's been the overall feel of this defense, especially after that Oregon game?
I think when Jim Knowles, and maybe you start from there, when Jim Knowles came to Ohio State in 2022, you look at his track record at Oklahoma State as they had this defense in his last year there where they had the second most sacks in the country outside of Alabama, brought a lot of havoc, would blitz a lot, would have this very exciting style of play. And they have not been they have not been in that image at Ohio State. I mean, they obviously last year were among the best in the country in terms of stop rate and keeping teams mostly just from scoring points. But I think what people have maybe wanted to see in year three for them to take another step was so much returning front talent on the line. They did the whole defensive line returning. You wanted to see them sort of maybe follow that template from Knowles' tenure at Oklahoma State and get pressure, get sacks, create negative plays, get off the field, and get the ball back into the hands of Ohio State's offense. And in a lot of their big matchup games, they have not quite done that as much. In the fourth quarter, they've at times struggled to get off the field, and part of that comes down to them just being unable to maybe create a negative play that could get a team off schedule.
Mm-hmm. Two stellar running backs, and then Will Howard, who we saw close to here last year at Kansas State. How would you grade Will Howard, Joey, through the first 6 games?
Pretty high. I mean, B+, A-. I mean, I think he's done exactly what Ohio State has wanted him to do, and that's make good decisions in the RPO game, be accurate with the ball. He's been really precise in the red zone, which has been an issue for them in past years where they haven't always been able to finish drive. And that was something maybe last year they left a lot of points there where they didn't capitalize. So I think he's been really good in those areas. He's been able to give them a little more of a run threat. He maybe hasn't been quite to the level that was advertised in the offseason, but still certainly much more willing to run and scramble. And in the red zone, that's something they've also relied on, his legs as much as his arm. Where maybe if you're Nebraska and you haven't seen Ohio State since 2021 when C.J. Stroud was the starting quarterback, the way Will Howard is different is he's not going to pick you apart downfield as much as C.J. Stroud did or Justin Fields did. They have not pushed the ball vertically with the same frequency that they did in past years, and so that's maybe a limitation in Will Howard's game, but also just maybe the way they're calling the game.
Mm-hmm.
So those sort of go maybe a little bit hand in hand, but he's not been asked to throw it 40 yards down the field all the time. They've been much more selective in picking their spots.
Well, and Joey, that's where my next question about Jeremiah Smith. When we talked to you during Big Ten Media Days, the excitement for Jeremiah Smith was real. Now you've seen that play out, the type of player that he is. We forget that he's a true freshman. What has surprised you? Because I know you and many other people were high on him, and rightfully so, but it seems like somehow he's exceeded even those expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you look at every game; he's just been a factor. He's I think you can make a very strong case that he's just been their best player on offense. Maybe I think Emeka Buka, in terms of his reliability, might be able to lay claim to that as well. But I think the most impressive thing, the thing that's really struck me, is how much Ohio State seems to trust Jeremiah Smith in situations where there have been moments where you look at the first game of the year against Akron, he dropped the screen pass, and then they go right back to him on the next series. He had the play against Iowa where he fumbled. They go right back to him. So he's made some freshman mistakes from time to time, but Ohio State has shown a willingness to lean on him as much as they do. And I think that shows the confidence that they have in him. And then maybe that goes without saying when you watch him play and jump and move and make all these one-handed catches. But I think that's telling in its own right as well.
Hey, being in the media, what's the general feeling around Urban Meyer being in the media and always being asked about Ohio State and not afraid to give his opinion, mostly for the good and the support publicly of Ryan Day about Ohio State?
It's an interesting dynamic if you're Ryan Day and your predecessor is on air as much as Urban Meyer is killing the board. Certainly deals with that at Alabama with Nick Saban now on game day, but it adds a dynamic. I think back to this summer where Urban Meyer was asked about the roster and that Ohio State has, and mentioned that it was as talented as any that he's seen in college football in decades. And it's not as if Ryan Day needs any more pressure coming into this season with the national championship expectations needing to be Michigan. And then you have your predecessor out there saying it's the most talented roster ever. It puts you in a position as the head coach in Ryan Day where the expectations are even higher to live up to. So that's the challenge, I think, for Day, or the Meyer factors. If you are concerned about maybe expectation management, it doesn't always. It's certainly a dynamic that's out there.
I want to go back to the recent development of left tackle and Josh Simmons, and I know that was discussed yesterday with Zach Mikulski getting the start, but the depth at that position, is that a situation, Joey, that you could see? Will it be Zen that will be there, or is that maybe a two-man rotation? What's the depth looking like at a position where Josh Simmons was playing very, very well?
Yeah, that was a pretty critical loss. I mean, you look at the Oregon game and the after effects. It doesn't really, I don't think the loss itself does not change Ohio State's ultimate goal. But losing Simmons, who is arguably their most improved player and as vital as any, because their depth on the offensive line is good on the interior. It's more lacking at the tackle spots. They're going with Zen Mikulski, who filled in, I think, rather admirably for Josh Simmons at Oregon, but is a fourth-year junior, been in the program a while, knows their offense and scheme and all that, but just has not had a lot of reps. I think it's the least disruptive move they can make. I think he will get most of the snaps Saturday. I think he's going to be their starting left tackle going forward, because the other option that they had really was to move around the offensive line quite a bit, potentially move the left guard, Donovan Jackson, to left tackle, and then start Austin Sterville at left guard, who had filled in for Donovan in the first two games of the season. So that then requires you have two new guys in two new spots. So I think the hope is that Zen can handle the position, because it's the least it creates the least sort of chaos throughout the rest of the line. The thing to watch for, obviously, is if he struggles, because then and Nebraska's got a good pass rush, so that if he struggles, will Ohio State make a musical chairs type movement up front?
I know it was brought up this week. I'm curious because I feel like this would be more of a conversation in the Georgia circles than it would be Ohio State, but the first team that Dylan Raiola had committed to was Ohio State. Dylan was asked about it. He's excited to go back and play in that environment. Is his name brought up in angst a lot at all, when, especially now zeroing in on this game? Is that any part of the conversation going into this game, other than the fact that he's a starting quarterback, but anything about decommitting from Ohio State to commit to Georgia, then to eventually commit to Nebraska?
I think Ohio State fans at this point have probably gotten accustomed to watching either former commits or former players go on elsewhere. You survey the landscape, and Quinn Ewers is the starting quarterback in Texas, Kyle McCord's at Syracuse, and in the case of Dylan now at Nebraska. So I think it's become a lot more just accustomed into this world. I think the other thing that makes maybe that less of a storyline here in Columbus is for the Ohio State 2024 class, they ended up getting Julian Sayin to transfer from Alabama, and he was as highly ranked as anybody in the last class. So I think that maybe softens the blow of losing Raiola in that class. So I think if Ohio State's quarterback situation was more in flux, you didn't have Will Howard, you didn't maybe have a long-term plan there, and then you watch Dylan Raiola carve you up on Saturday, it becomes more of a conversation. But because of just how transient the position has become, and I think largely Ohio State feels pretty good about its quarterback room this year and moving forward, that it maybe softens sort of the blow.
Hey, Joey, as always, we appreciate your time and fine work, and we'll see you on Saturday in Columbus.
It should be a fun one. Thanks for having me.
It's Joey Kaufman. For some people, should be a fun one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to travel either, so
you can follow
in his own bed.
Joey on Twitter at Joey R. Kaufman. Okay, so the day yesterday of 4 and 6, there is the ranking of a salary of an offensive coordinator. What, top 10, right?
Yeah.
So I'm reading through a story that Joey wrote after the Oregon game about Jim Knowles. And Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator for Ohio State, is under a lot of scrutiny.
Yep.
I mean, Nick Saban called Ohio State's 4-man pass rush antiquated on game day. So the first 6 games, they forced 17 sacks. It's on par with each of the last 4 seasons. But they got 19 pressures against Oregon but never got home.
Yep.
Do what you will with that coming into this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But stories now with Jim Knowles include his salary. Jim Knowles, his $2.2 million per year defensive coordinator. How would we feel around here? Because we're not walking away from this. Everybody knows Tony White makes 1.6, Marcus Satterfield makes 1.4. What is your return on investment?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have seen any World Herald, Journal Star, or Weber's, good family.
Yes, they are.
Include Satterfield's salary yet. I could be missing that.
No,
but
I think you're right.
Are we ready for that around here? That the salary gets included in a story about Nebraska's offense struggling?
That's next, yeah.
Because it's all over.
I think it's
because yesterday was the day of this guy makes $1.4 million and this is what we're getting, which is a valid question of what is your return on investment?
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska paid. I mean, I don't know the background of the Satterfield. I know why the Tony White's getting paid what he's paid.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Rewarded.
But I think they said, okay, we can't be paying a DC this and the OC is not making this. So we're Nebraska. We got money.
Mm-hmm.
Got to spend smart money. That's what my financial advisor tells me these days as I'm getting older and looking towards retirement. You got to spend smart money, Gary. You can't just go out and just willy-nilly buy like TVs. You already got 8 of them. Okay. So you got to spend smart money.
You have three TVs in every room.
That's what I'm picturing. You get multiple TVs.
This was in the middle of the summer. I went into a room that I don't normally go into. I'm like, God, I have like 3 50+ inch TVs just sitting in there.
Still boxed up?
No.
In case you want to watch one more than once.
Are they functioning?
I have this problem. That's why I don't go to Nebraska Furniture Mart, because I have this problem when I go to the electronics.
What about
Like,
Costco?
God,
Walk
that
out
looks
with
so
something.
awesome.
What about Costco?
Costco,
Costco's doing it to me now these
Costco,
days.
I make a beeline right for the
Costco,
clothes.
Costco's starting to get me. They're starting to lure me in.
But are we ready around here for Sam McEwen to write an article that includes Marcus Satterfield's salary?
Yeah.
Not saying it's right or wrong,
Yeah,
but,
we are.
but that's just something that we don't normally see around here. But now Jim Knowles, after Oregon, a lot of the stories include what he makes per year.
And I to answer the first question, yeah, I think we are. I think we're ready for that. I think it's fair. I think that's usually whether you believe that Marcus Satterfield will be here next year or not, which I would assume if we did a straw poll that the majority would say would not. Usually that's one of the final pieces on a coordinator or a coach is when you start looking at the contract, when you start looking at the money. And I know head coaches, everyone starts looking at the buyout, but it's a very fair thing to bring up when you are making top dollar where the return on investment is and how the context of that, as far as if you had a run of just catastrophic injuries, what exactly is your fault and what is not your fault, or what is showing poor planning as opposed to really good planning and just having some bad luck, all of that stuff. Because where last year with the running game, you could say, boy, they had a bad run of injuries there. And then you lost some key wide receivers. Either they left the team, people that you thought was going to be a big part of that offense. So you were scrambling to try to piece something together. This year, what's the excuse, though? That's the thing. What's the excuse? You haven't had this major run of injuries other than left tackle. And it's been a situation where all your skill position players that you brought over here, your running back room is healthy as they've ever been. Your quarterback is still upright. You haven't had to go to the backup quarterback other than a helmet coming off. So, what's the excuse there? Quickly, though, on the Jim Knowles thing, man, I didn't take this as a Ohio State's media is completely overlooking Nebraska or doesn't care, but it tells you what the big priority right now of that program in the media's eyes is that's having the talent on that side of the football, on that defensive side of the football, and things not happening to the standard that they expected. A lot of it being the pass rush, where you felt like if people think that Ryan Day were to lose to Michigan again, which I have a tough time believing that this year, would be on the hot seat. Geez, what do you think about Jim Knowles then? Based on just the tone of that. And here's the other thing, because you brought up what Saban said. Ryan Day did not knock that down. He didn't dispute it. He didn't say, yeah, I push back on that. Essentially, he didn't necessarily stand up for his guy. And several times he mentioned how pissed off he was and that he has spent time in the last few weeks on that side of the football.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, for a guy who is an offensive-minded guy, but is trying to take on the CEO role of this football program, understanding that this, for them, is a problem. That's, again, I think a lot of the hot seat talk has always been about Ryan Day if they can't beat Michigan. But, man, Jim Knowles, that conversation and just listening to that yesterday, just trying to see if there's any Nebraska question whatsoever, it was all about that defense and Jim Knowles. You would have thought that they are letting their opponent score 35 points a game and giving up 525 yards a game.
It had the feel of a 1-5 football team in Columbus.
It really did.
I'm with Adam here. What Satterfield makes doesn't bother me. Nebraska should be paying their coordinators top 20 money in college football. I'm more focused on what Rule does about the offense and Satterfield. Got to spend smart money. He's absolutely right. Nebraska has resources to pay coordinators top dollar, but you got to make the right decision for what you need and what you want and what your roster looks like. Because let's say this in recruiting. So Nebraska wants to run pro style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they able to recruit running backs and wide receivers to their current style that they want to be, or what they have to be successful?
No, not right now. You haven't seen it. Again, the Kawan Lacey was the guy that you thought, okay, there's the difference running back wise. There's a guy that can be that type of game changer in that type of offense that just opens everything else up. Then all of a sudden you've got a exciting young talent that's slinging the football in a absolute potential stud as a running back, what does that then do to the skill position around him?
I think a great question is, and yesterday was bad, but that's low-hanging fruit. There's nothing more to say.
Yeah.
Fix it. Is how do you recruit, Coach Rule, to the style you want to play? What does that recruit look like? And that might be the tell on what he wants as an offense.
That's a good point.
Jim Knowles makes 2.2. Nebraska's coordinators are paid, and they should be paid that way. Got to spend smart money. What are you, scared money make no money?
Yeah.
Well, you got to spend the right money.
ABC
Players, coaches. Yeah, it's all about the investment. All right, thank you, Adam, for that. I'm on board with you there. A little bit later, Jay Moore will stop by. Brandon Vogel as well. It's mornings with Sharp and Handley. 1620 The Zone.
This week's Zone Deal is for Stories Coffee Company. Stories Coffee serves premium coffee roasted on site, also serving teas, smoothies, breakfast, lunch, 7 local craft beers on tap, and delicious wines. With this week's deal, get 5 $10 vouchers for only $25, a $50 value. That's on sale this Friday, October 25th at 9 a.m. Get all the details at 1620thezone.com.
Think this will be played at Dodger Stadium when Magic and Bird face off on Friday night?
Oh, yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Got to play Fernando to start,
Isn't Ohtani versus Judge kind of like Magic against Bird?
Yes.
Okay.
I like I told you on Monday, I had the 24-hour feeling from Saturday night of, I'm not going to watch this damn thing.
I'm convincing you.
No. I mean, once I realized,
you gotta
because
watch.
I love Shohei Ohtani. Just absolutely.
And you love baseball.
I like baseball.
It's over after this series. It'll start snowing the next day.
The big markets, everybody's, the big market stuff, whatever. I don't care about that. I'm about the players, man. The players involved in this thing. And yeah, when you have Aaron Judge, who thank you to Cleveland, who has awoken in the postseason, but good Lord, Giancarlo Stanton. Like guys that like Giancarlo Stanton especially.
Why'd you pitch to him?
I don't know.
Why did Steinbrenner trade Ken Phelps? Why did you pitch to Stanton?
I don't know.
By the way, good thing you're not on TikTok because there's a lot of like reaction Yankee videos.
Oh, don't worry. I've seen some of those come through the Instagram stories too. And then somebody had, this is what aggressive looks like. Juan Soto seeing his first pitch, then given the second pitch.
Different stuff on your For You page.
Then again, they gets the pitch that he drives out.
I know you're a hater.
I'm not a hater. I hate what happened.
You're a hater.
I hate what happened. I don't hate him.
That is one of the best at bats we've had in baseball in a long time. He took 2 pitches basically out of the catcher's glove.
Yep. No, I'm not hating.
But maybe go on TikTok. You'll see the emotion. There's some when you combine Jay-Z and Frank Sinatra.
Oh God. And then I'm sure it'll be followed by the roll call.
I did not see any of those.
Okay.
A couple of...
They'll do those on the road. That wasn't happening in Cleveland.
It won't happen in L.A.
We're doing it in Cleveland.
Might throw some bottles in.
Chris writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, Ohio State. This could be the college version of Millard South versus Lincoln High.
Oh, boy. So Nebraska will not come out in the second half?
Can we just forfeit now, or do we have to wait until halftime?
When you say it'd be 1-0, you already said 1-0. So
yeah,
it'll be 2-0.
And they got Bynum. Nebraska maybe will get to Howard. Say, you know what?
Yeah.
Adrian Martinez was a better K-State quarterback than you were.
And say, if he doesn't get injured, you never have that glory.
I know there is dread out there, and this game is not about, and I'm basing it off listening to Ohio State yesterday. This isn't Ohio State versus Nebraska. No. Ohio State's worried about themselves. Nebraska's worried about themselves. They just happen to play a game and collide with each other.
Yep.
My biggest thing, and I'm going to get Jay Moore fired up because Jay Moore's a black shirt. And Jay Moore is going to have to own this because he's one of those guys that have put blood, sweat, and tears out on the field for that team.
Mm-hmm.
Should we be startled that Nebraska did not fight on Saturday? And I'm not saying, like Nash coming off the bench like he's a fourth-line goon, and they say, hey, like Knighton tapped him on the shoulder and like, get out there.
Go get
Sandy
him.
McCarthy.
And so the next thing you know,
5 minutes.
He's down there giving Rourke the business.
Shout out Marty
I'm not
Lyons.
saying that, but I'm saying the mere fact of just fighting. Where is...
What do you want? James Williams hurt their thumb.
Now I'm starting to get fired up here. Because you got to fight!
Oh, you're right.
Or you're going to be 5-3. Or you're going to be 5-4. Then you're going to be 5-5. Then you're going to be 5-6. Then you're going to be 5-7. And you know what happens if you're 5-7? You're a loser!
Yep.
And you know what happens around here? Production stops. People just turn out the lights. Nobody goes outside.
Sun never comes out.
People go out of business.
Yeah, it gets cloudy.
People stop shooting each other in Crime Town in Lincoln. Okay? That's what happens when you're 5-7 in December. But
swim trials later.
I think we should be, there's so many things from Saturday that we've had to dive through. I got Michael giving me stats about blowouts, and I'm like, yes, we haven't even digested
Just
yesterday
saw
yet.
that.
We should be a little bit startled that Nebraska didn't fight on Saturday. Like, didn't Matt Rule after the Purdue game say, I'm going to fight for Nebraska?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, he was changing the words to the Iowa fight song. Instead of it's going to be, I'm going to fight for Iowa. Rule was like, I'm going to fight for Nebraska. where were those players on Saturday to fight for Nebraska? That's what I'm a little bit startled by. I need to ask Jay Moore this, because I've thought about this more listening to Gifford yesterday, is where's somebody that just said, boys, I'm going out there and my day is going to be over because I'm going to pick up a targeting foul. The next guy that comes across the middle that think they're going to have a birthday party in our secondary, I'm going to light him up like a monkey. Some places monkeys are lit up if you don't get that reference. But nobody did that. Nobody did that. Like one guy that said, boys, when Bayor has a sack,
Yep.
somebody says, that wasn't very impressive. I can do better. I don't know, I'm a little startled that no one fought. If Matt Rule says I'm fighting for Nebraska, their biggest game to that point, nobody fought for themselves. Is that another layer of disconnect, or is that just, Jesus, we were in our heads, we were all over the map, they were a better team? But man, someone's got to stand up at one point and just say, guys, not today. Not today. I might be a lone wolf out there, but I'm going to blow somebody up. Okay? I'm going to run somebody over. You know who did that? A fullback. Liventrin. Again, he killed an Indiana guy. Yeah. It's not on the injury report. Might be available for the game against Washington.
Somehow he wound up with a trident.
But he blew up a guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching here because now we're in the middle of the week and the wheels have completely come off. That kind of struck me on Saturday, said it on Big Red Overreaction, and then listening yesterday. Sorry. Thank you for letting me have a rant.
I would say
Beastie Boys there.
Maybe my most disappointing to what you bring up there, if there's a guy that would represent that I would think would be that dude, would be the catalyst, would be an Isaac Gifford. And he wasn't. Nobody was. And there's a mentality with this defense that I think what you're bringing up, you would at the very least expect something like that. Now, I wouldn't even call this a pushback, but my only theory on why you did not see that, got a little bit of this yesterday from some of the defensive players that spoke. I think they were absolutely shell-shocked by everything that took place. That it was to the tune that they couldn't even really gather emotions because of what was happening, and everything that they were going out there and doing was failing, and everything that every button Indiana pushed was successful. That this defense has been through it to where they've been on a bad end of a game, but nothing to that tune, to where from the get-go, there was nothing that Indiana could do that could be stopped. And I think it was the most helpless feeling for this defense. I'm not trying to excuse this, by the way. I'm trying to maybe look at it from the other side of it, of why maybe guys that we would expect, tough dudes on that side of the football that we would expect to have a reaction of such didn't, because they quite frankly were, it was maybe 4 quarters of deer in headlights. They did not know how to respond to the absolute dominance that Indiana had on that side of the football. Really the entire game.
That you know what you're saying out loud. It scares some people.
How does that not? How did that performance not scare people?
Well, that's why I want to see the response, because I do think that, I don't know. Like, I'll just use one element on defense, and this is, again, we got Jay Moore top of the hour, and he kind of broke this down a little bit last night on Big Red Wrap Up. Is, God, they were. It seemed like all 3 levels of Nebraska's defense never played together before Saturday. Like, they prepped for Indiana, but they were all doing different things. Like, the play call for the general defense seemed to be at times different from what they were doing on the back end. Things didn't align. Guys were out of position that they might physically not be able to hold their own, but they're not like they're always out of position.
Yeah.
The aggressiveness of linebackers and safeties on the RPO, you had to have, they repped the RPO leading up to that. So what? The more I listen, like Tony White,
were they over prepared?
Well, I don't think I'd go there.
I know it didn't look like it.
I don't think I'd go there.
But sometimes when you are over prepared, it's almost like you just start to lose the simplicity of your basic functions, where you're so focused on scenario D and E that you forget A. Or A, all of a sudden, that is just a natural instinct, all of a sudden isn't there. I don't know. Again, I bring these up because a lot of what happened there, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. But a lot of what happened, everyone's searching for answers. Like at one point, Tony White talked about there are things schematically that they would never do again, where he was trying to own it. So I don't know if that's kind of what you're getting at there too. But there are things that he said the guys, and this is another part. This didn't get as much run as what Marcus Satterfield said yesterday, and I understand that. But there was one part where Tony White said, these guys, for the most part, and even in that game on Saturday, are doing what they're told. This was on me because
So were they being told three different things?
It's a good question.
Did Saturday,
it's a good question.
Did Saturday become the first day that on game day Nebraska missed Evan Cooper?
I think that is absolutely a fair question to ask. Because everything about it, okay, the secondary, it got to a point when the ball would leave Curtis Rourke's hand beyond 10 yards. You knew what was going to happen.
Now, there are some throws that's not on.
No, he threw some dimes.
Man, the ball placement.
Yep. Those back shoulders were amazing.
You have to own that, and you go, damn, that guy is spinning it today.
Mm-hmm. But the eyes at some not tracking, playing the man, not the ball at times, like little things like that you've seen this secondary, this group show the ability to do. It just, nothing jived. Nothing looked like what you'd expect it to look like, even on good throws, the way you're playing, the way you're defending. You get beat on a good throw, you get beat on a good throw.
That back shoulder throw, that's
amazing.
I mean, you should have just gotten a defensive pass interference.
Yep.
I mean,
and he was doing that constantly.
They were making plays.
Yeah.
They were making plays,
Yeah.
but there were other opportunities throughout the course of when the game was still in doubt that you could have made plays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nebraska was not very good on the back end. They just were not.
Nope.
I mean, their safeties had a rough day. Linebackers had a rough day. Gifford didn't play well.
No. And I don't know if...
But it never seemed like what from all three levels were always on the same page on what they were running.
I think that is an absolute fair observation. And that...
So we got to ask why, and then how that never happens again. Is that a communication that starts on the sideline? Between all of your... Because Dvorak's upstairs, so you have John Butler, who is very active.
Yep.
He's a guy that's on the white boundary, and he's bouncing up and down.
Yep.
And then, of course, Tony White, and then Terrence Knighton is down there as well.
Yeah.
That's good questions for Jay. I don't know if I'll have any answers for it, but we're going to ask him coming up at 9. Also, when we come back, it was a hell of a day yesterday for Barry Switzer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
monster day for Barry Switzer. I don't know things in his life that have been as monumental as what happened to Barry Switzer yesterday.
Well, there's certain things that just mean more.
I do. We'll get into that when we come back. Again, Jay Moore coming up at 9. Brandon Vogel as well. They're going to try and help us through this, and then we're on. We're on to Ohio State. Maybe.
That's why
16-20 the zone.
Hey, week 7 of the 25 quarter 4 pick'em is officially open. You can make your picks now. Get a piece of the prize, $25,000. Play now at 1620thezone.com. And also congrats to David Wozniak, who won $2,500 by being a perfect 10 of 10. Good stuff there, David.
People got jokes about Bronny. Mark says, I didn't know it was take your son to work day.
I was waiting for that one.
Another one said, Bronny is a good son and a good employee. He brought donuts to the game. 3 minutes, 0 for 2 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3-point range.
He had a good look, too. He had a really good look. He missed it.
Monumental day yesterday for a Big 8 legend. So, you know, I mean, we're in the thralls of it with an election that is upcoming in this country that kind of consumes everything.
Sure does.
And depending on who you follow, what side of the For You or following tab you're on the old Xer.
Yep.
You know, I was told, somebody gave me a tip the other day. You know how to clean up your For You page?
How?
You block Elon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
is that like a real thing?
Yeah. So it
Really?
does something to the algorithm. So it's not all political.
Oh.
You're still going to get the political stuff.
Sure.
But it's not just a flood of that.
Okay.
So go out there and try it, right?
Well, yeah.
I
go.
thought this was during political season. I thought this was one of the dumber tweets yesterday, because there have been a lot of dumb tweets out there on both parties.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Let's just get it together, people. All right. Former Texas quarterback Vince Young and Oklahoma coach Barry Switzer named part of the 2024 SEC football legends class. I thought in the day of political of yesterday on Twitter, that was the dumbest tweet. I didn't think that was real. There's a lot of stuff that I'm fact-checking. I looked at that and I said, oh, Brett McMurphy, you got hacked. And then I read it.
It was Rhett McMurphy.
Do you guys realize it took Barry Switzer 13 years to get into the College Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
It took him less than 4 months to become an SEC legend. How about that?
I know. And you know what? Like I said, it just means more.
He is
both to the conference and to Barry Switzer.
Debate?
He's made his mark on now 3 conferences.
Who's better, Barry Switzer or Tom Osborne? Because Barry Switzer is a legend in a conference he never played in or coached in.
Is Tom Osborne part of the Big Ten legends? Do they have the Big Ten legends?
I don't think they have Big Ten legends, but
they probably don't.
But boy, they grab our content from our time in the Big 12 and the Big 8, and they show it on Big Ten Classic.
How many times did we see Ndamukong Suh running over Little Hawkins leading up to the Colorado game? Pretty sure that didn't happen in the Big Ten. Yeah. I know he's got to entertain it.
You're saying T.O. needs to be honored by the Big Ten.
Well, yeah.
That's what I take from this.
I mean,
let's go.
The Big Ten just they don't do things normal. They don't have preseason first and second teams. They have the players to watch. So I'm pretty sure they do not have a legends class. But if they did, yeah, T.O. would be on it. I mean, you couldn't wait like even a year or two.
No, you got to get him in there right away.
But come on,
Barry is 87.
But still,
sorry,
it's true though.
I mean,
they can wait on Bud Wilkinson.
It's one thing to roll footage when a team that is now in your conference from their previous conference games on whatever network that is, but to honor within, like you said, within 4 months of them being an official member of the Southeastern Conference, that we're supposed to acknowledge Barry Switzer as one of the SEC greats. Boy, I remember when he was coaching the sidelines of those SEC brawls.
Now, Nick, could you make a case that actually what Switzer was doing was very SEC?
Well, okay, I understand you there. Yeah, maybe. And Vince Young, too.
Now, Clint brings up a good point. If you think about, and I don't know if the Big Ten has legends. They had legends and leaders, and they went away.
Yeah, short-lived.
Tom Osborne does deserve to be in the legends and not for what he did as a coach. Nebraska's not in the Big Ten if he's not the athletic director.
That is true. So there's that part of it. To the Big Ten legends, or maybe the Big Ten, maybe they have Big Ten Ring of Honor.
I don't know if they have that.
They need
I'm
something.
pretty sure they don't.
Put a museum in
We don't
Gretna.
even do like a preseason poll.
Exactly.
We have, the
Players to watch.
The Big East today just announced the preseason all the way to the third team where Ashworth is.
Can he
from
be
Creighton?
can he
The
be-
Big Ten is like, hey, these are the 3 teams we're going to be watching, and these are the 37 players that are on the watch list.
Maybe they have the Big Ten past and present coaches watch list, and Tom Osborne's on it. It's as close as you're going to get. It's I guarantee they don't have anything like this.
Maybe they should put Tom Osborne in the SEC Legends for what he did to one of the better SEC teams in the '96 Fiesta Bowl.
I see.
Yep. Owned them. Doesn't always have to be SEC affiliated.
That's incredible. I mean, they've been
it's kind of laughable.
No. I think it's an accomplishment. They've been in there for 4 months, and he's already in the SEC Legends.
Ready. And when does Mac Brown get pissed for not being in the SEC Legends?
It's just, come on.
Darryl Royal?
You didn't coach in the SEC. It's fine. Again, it's fine to play games on the network of your old footage when you're with a different conference. That's fine.
Tommy Nobis?
Is the greatest game ever played in the history of Big Ten football the Bush Push at South Bend? I think it's a valid question.
A future Big Ten team and a Big Ten team we all wanted. It is. It's a great Big Ten moment.
You know, it would be a good response to Vince Young going into the SEC Legends is that Matt Leinart goes into the Big Ten to celebrate that matchup in the championship game.
Thank you.
That's how ridiculous this is.
It's the greatest night for the Big Ten and SEC.
15, 20 years from now, little Johnny is going to be taking a look at his SEC Legends class and ask Dad and Mom about Barry Switzer. Tell me about the games that he used to coach in the SEC. And tell me about what made him a legend. And you're going to lie to that kid and say that, some of the best SEC games, boy, 230, Brad Nessler. They were amazing, man. Unfortunately, that was actually in the Big 8 on Black Friday
Prime
against
Network
Nebraska.
SEC game of the week.
2 conferences before. Never coached in the SEC. Doesn't there need to be a line drawn there if you coached in the SEC? Like Barry Switzer doesn't need this. This isn't something like, all of the accolades and honors that I got as a coach at Oklahoma, this one is the best because this is the best conference in college football. And to your point, it only took me 4 months.
The culmination of a life well lived.
Oh, Clint has another one. Was the Oklahoma-Nebraska game in 1971 the best game ever between the Big Ten and the SEC?
Yeah.
I'd say Texas and SC in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
They should put us in charge of BTN summertime programming.
Mm-hmm.
You were on the sidelines for one of those Big Ten SEC classes.
And now that we have this alliance between the SEC and Big Ten, I feel like we could really do a deep dive into those games. Some of those really great SEC versus Big Ten matchups.
Just come up with a list.
It spans the globe.
Should people have been more ticked off last year that the Big Ten had 2 teams playing for the national championship against each other?
Should it be ticked off by that?
Yeah.
Should be.
No. They should be very excited.
I'm surprised that the Greg Sankey after last year didn't try and ban the Big Ten for having Washington, Michigan.
Should the
play
SEC be pissed? Yeah, hell yeah, they should be pissed about that.
Shut down the sport.
That's probably why they did this. They're going to start claiming I'm talking about everyone that was, hell, even from the old Southwest Conference too, with Texas.
Jay Moore joins us next. We're going to try and figure this out with a guy who does have some answers, but also has some questions. That's coming up next on 1620 The Zone. Hey, don't forget, you're going to get more of Mornings with Sharp and Handley after the Ohio State game. We're doing Big Red Overreaction.
Hell yes.
Where's Jay? Is Jay avoiding us?
Let's text Jay.
Did we lose another former Husker on this show?
No.
he liked. I
like both of them.
I said he's still good. He liked it. He liked the text.
He's there.
There he
All
is.
is well.
All right. We've been, that name, by the way, has been resurfacing a lot this week.
Yes,
it has. He's focusing right there. There he is.
Good morning.
Hi, Jay.
Morning, guys. Sorry for the late. I was at the office and got busy doing something and looked up and it was 9:01 and Nick's like, where the hell are you?
I didn't say where I said, are you still good?
Listen,
I would never treat you that way, Jay. You would kill me.
In my head, that's what it sounded like.
Oh, okay. I'll be careful next time.
So I appreciated you and Damon last night on Big Red Wrap Up because you guys walk an interesting balance of you're in the media, but you're also a player. So there's emotions, there's questions, there's breakdown. There's a couple of different ways to go here, but I want to start with this. And this is something that you guys talked about last night that really is bugging me about the fight aspect. Get in there and fight. Do your job and fight. So Dowdell fumbles. Indiana puts together a 6-play, 88-yard touchdown drive. They're up 14-0, and you feel like the wheels are starting to get wobbly. But Nebraska then puts together a 13-play drive where they never got to third down. It takes them 75 yards. All of a sudden, with about a little under 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, Nebraska's down 14-7, and you're like, okay, it could be much worse, but it's a touchdown ball game. And then after that, the response wasn't good. Mm-hmm. What do you think happened even at 14-7 that it was 21-7 and essentially over?
Yeah, I think the defense has had a really bad day. That was completely unexpected. I thought this defense had gathered some momentum and gotten some things fixed and corrected after some of the issues that we saw in Northern Iowa and Illinois. I thought they had some momentum. I think the bye week, this is what always concerns me about the bye week, and I could be wrong, but this is just my take. Is you can give sometimes coaches don't do well with too much time. Mm-hmm. I thought the defense, and I think I got the sentiment from Tony White yesterday. He tried doing too much.
Nick brought that up.
I think he overcomplicated things. Coming on in a bye week, you have more time, you have more meeting time, you have more time to look at film.
Yeah.
And I thought, they just seemed a step slow defensively. They seemed a little bit unsure where new wrinkles, new concepts, new things might have been introduced. And I think this is the hard part too when you're dealing with a defense that has a lot of good players that have played a lot of snaps, that you think you can present them with more complicated things, more unique ways, trying to do things a certain way to try to, slow up the opposing offense. But sometimes, I've been a part, defenses, at Nebraska or wherever you are. And sometimes the best stuff you have is your base simple stuff. I remember all the years that we'd go into game week, you'd start practice on Monday and, hey, we're going to introduce these 3 blitzes, and then you run them, or you do something early in the game, those blitz, you get gashed, and you're like, boom, we're not doing that anymore. And we run basic stuff that we've been running since spring ball of the previous year, and you stone them. So I think there's an aspect of that, and I got off the tracks a little bit, but I think the defense just had no answer whatsoever other than that one stop on 4th and 2. But let's be honest, if Worker got the ball off, that the guy was running wide open in the seam. So I just was really, really disappointed and surprised to see that type of performance out of his defense. No one played well. Everybody struggled. The play I broke down in Big Red Wrap Up was just that was early in the game. It wasn't like it was late in the game and guys were tired and weren't thinking well. I mean, it was third down and they just gashed you and it was a hot mess. You had Nash falls down, takes out Ty damn near takes out Princewell. MJ Sherman does a horrible job of reading and recognizing formation of the boundary, gets pinned down. Isaac steps up, at least does a decent job of setting the edge, but you just have this huge gash in this lane for the running back, and Singleton does a poor job of coming down, and you're off to the races. And just the defense had opportunities, I think, to get momentum stopped and get things on their side, but there's too many third down conversions. And listen, Rourke was spot on at the back shoulder throws. Not enough one-on-one matchups were won defensively. I think that's in the defense has to play well for this team to be successful. That's just unfortunately how it is. We know the offense has their issues, and that's, we could spend another 2 hours dissecting offensive issues, but this defense has to be good to give this team a chance. And unfortunately, on Saturday, it was the worst performance they had all year.
Jay, we know a lot of people, defensive players, including Isaac Gifford, saying this yesterday, that this week and going forward, it has to be about them, not the opponent. How tough is that when you're playing a team like Ohio State, to keep it on yourself, keep it on your job, as opposed to getting caught up of what you're up against, given how talented Ohio State is?
Yeah, it can be rather daunting, and it's obviously very concerning knowing supposedly how mentally fragile this team is. But I also look at it as, what? No one's expecting us to win. No one thinks we're going to play well. And this is from this, top down, staff wise, player wise. This could really, free people up. I look at this and, when expectations, I think obviously Nebraska has struggled, for 20 plus years dealing with expectations where fans and people in national coverage thinks they're about ready to do something. And this is finally their time that they're going to show they can beat a ranked opponent on the road, or finally beat a ranked opponent wherever it is. Right. Mm-hmm. And they lay an egg. Listen, no one not one single person is expecting Nebraska to win. Just go play, man. Go fight. Who cares what the score is? I think you'll see a much simpler approach by the defense. Just put your guys in positions to win. Quit trying to get too cute. Quit trying to move your D-line all over the place. Man, just line up and say, hey, this is my gap. I'm gonna get it. You want to throw some different wrinkles at it. I think this is a week that you just you can't overthink it, right? You just overthought the last week and you get your butt kicked. I don't know. Obviously Indiana and Ohio State play in a few weeks. Let me see just, how much better Indiana potentially, or that matchup between Indiana and Ohio State. Indiana could easily beat Ohio State after watching that game last Saturday. But it's an opportunity, just the mental stuff. Let it go. Let it all out, man. Go play, execute, do your job. It's just this type of game just boils down to individual pride, how you want to, how do you want to feel sitting Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, wherever they watch film, Monday morning, wherever that is. Because this team this is where I always struggle. Why the inconsistencies? It's like when you finally going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired? Mm-hmm. Because there's been a lot of times where these guys have had film sessions where they got their asses kicked, performed poorly. Man, have some pride about yourself, and just, what, if my other 10 guys aren't going to show up and do it, at least I can. At least I can sit in film study with my coach or whoever it is and say, I did my job to the best of my ability, and let it be. And I know that's maybe a selfish way of looking at it, but that's what it boils down to. Now, if all 11 guys had that same mentality, you're probably going to be a damn good football team. So that's where I look at it. It's a very simple explanation for this week. It's like take some pride in how you want to do things in your preparation, and go out there and fight. You're gonna get some body blows. You're gonna get some jabs in the face. But you know what? Keep those hands up, duck and weave, and fight back. And That's what I'm excited to see, if this team just has that fight back in them, or is it over, in the first quarter.
I want to go back to your phrase about going out there and playing free. So Dylan, in his last 4 games, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 9 quarters without a touchdown pass. There's a lot of things that are ailing the offense, and they're not playing to their strengths. It's more to their weaknesses. But let's focus on the quarterback, Jay. Can they get to a point, because you can see him start to think, and he's a second late, and there were some guys that were open, and if he throws it right away instead of thinking, maybe they go for a bigger gain or a completion. Can you get the quarterback back to where the first 3 games of the year he was playing free and easy? Can you get that back in week 8?
I think so. I think you have to. I think we were discussing this last night too, with whether it was DB or SIP on there, and you see a quarterback that is trying to play too perfect. He's obviously overanalyzing, overthinking things, and I think Damon brought up a good point. It's like you try to take care of the football. It's like this thing is obviously a prized possession that you hold in your hand every snap. You got to take care of it, but also it can be a deterrent to how you operate. You're just going to hesitate. You've seen that his ability to climb the pocket. You saw him do that so well early in the year. You did not see him do that very well against Indiana. He was kind of getting out left or out, going outside where. If he could step up to the pocket and dish it off to a running back or someone underneath, or just go ahead and get 3, 4, 5 yards in those situations. But listen, in a game like this, you're probably you're not supposed to win. You turn the ball over a couple times, being aggressive and taking your shot. So be it, right? So be it. Let's go out there and let's just go let it hang. And that's, you got to Coach Rule, Glenn Thomas, Satterfield, it's got to sit down like, hey man, we got you. We're going to get some calls. We're going to get our guys in a better situation to win their one-on-one matchups. We're going to try to get this run game going a little bit and just go do you. I miss I want some more sense of urgency out of 15. That's what I want to see. Like have some, he's almost too cool. I mean, the guy is, he doesn't look too flustered, but it's almost to a fault at times. Let's get some sense of urgency going here. Let's get you quick on your feet. He might be a little dinged up, so I understand that. But hey, when you got this ball, you got this guy here, get it to him. Let's just go. Let's operate. Let's be efficient. I know you want to make all these great throws and drop it in the bucket over coverage, but let's take what the defense has given us and rinse and repeat and not overthink it. So this is a great opportunity just to let it go hang, and they got nothing to lose.
I want to go back to something you said a little bit ago, where this team is mentally. What did you think about that part of the equation going into the Indiana game, and where are you now?
Yeah, I thought they were fine mentally, and that's what's tough. Looking at this, and this is why this game will kind of, I don't know if it necessarily will portray how the next 4 games go after this, but if they come out and fight and keep this thing competitive, okay, we got some guys who are willing to put their big boy pants on and battle. Like I said, if this is a game where it's over before half, I'm really concerned, because this is an older team. And and at times that's good, but it's also a time where, unfortunately, PTSD is a real thing. And I hate that. I hate the here we go again. And Coach Rule brought that up. But like I said, it's just when are you just going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired, man, and go play and fix it instead of saying, oh, here we go again. I mean, you got to figure out how to say no. The hell with this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this again. Go play. Quit trying to overthink it, overanalyze, do whatever it is, and go make a dang play to turn this thing off and to get it going. Isaac Gifford, go make a play. Ty, Nash, Jamari, somebody step up, go make a dang play, get a turnover, and change this thing. But this will be very telling, I think, early on in this first half about the mental stability of this team. And and just how the coaching staff's got them prepared when you have to go on the road to Columbus against, a top 5 team in the country. So I know some people aren't too excited to watch it, but I'm excited to see the psychology of it all and where this team lays, because it's going to be telling to see and fitting to see how these next, this game, and then obviously the next 4 after this to, find 1 more win, 2 more wins, 6-6 and 6, 7-5 to obviously be playing somewhere in December.
Hey, let's say today they come out to practice and Rule's like, hey, Dylan, you and Sat get together. You guys grab the play that you love the best that's going to work no matter what defense. What's that play?
Oh, man.
That's not a good response, Jay.
Jay, you're supposed to have that answer lickety split.
Now
if I had that answer, I might be making $1.4 million.
Oh, Jay.
Hey, listen, that was a shot supposed to be fired, but listen, it's that play. I don't, guys. I honestly I don't know. This offense has gotten worse, and surprisingly, because with Dylan, I just think the process of it all. I don't know if this is the best play. Honestly, if I'm going the best play, I think our best weapon right now is getting the ball in the hands of Ja'Cory Barney. That's the best weapon, and it's a freshman wide receiver, and you're running some jet sweeps and little pop passes out in front of him. Okay, here we go. This is you just got to give me a second to work through my thoughts. A lot of hits to the head, boys.
What's that? Let's just be fair.
Yeah.
Gary did not pose an easy question. That is not an easy thing to answer.
Honestly, and this is just thinking back to DB and just having conversations last night. Sometimes our best run plays have been out I formation. Mm-hmm. I want to see them get an I formation, 21, 22 personnel. That means 2 backs, 2 tight ends, 2 backs, 1 tight end. And you just get that extra guy leading up in the hole to try to get this run game going. Just trying to do something unique. It's so hard to run the ball out of shotgun. You're down a guy in the mathematics of it all. So I'm gonna say we're gonna get in this I formation. And if we have to get in, 3 backs, something, right, to get this run game going, because these teams are just sitting back there and just letting try to run the ball because you can't out of what you're trying to do. And I think they just got to try to stress this defense and just stick with it. I don't, Sat said, I don't want to run the ball just to be 2nd and 9. Well, sometimes you have to, keep that defense honest and do it. So I'm going to say let's get in this I formation, and we're just going to try to pound you with Dowdell, with Ramir, with Emmett, whatever it is. Throw some play action off of it, but we're going to kind of go old school. We're going to get nasty with it. And hopefully it's like Novocaine, right? You just give it some time, and hopefully you're going to pop it, and it's going to kick in eventually.
Like split veer. You made some reference to it. I got to ask you, as a former player, but also a guy that played on the defensive side of the football, in a week that I think we're all looking for a response, but also some type of answers. What did you immediately think when you heard the running game question posed to Marcus Satterfield, the response there? What went through your head?
Oh, and just the second, the 2nd and 9 or the
just that entire exchange where need to get into a mindset. He needs to commit to it. All of that, where we've talked a little bit. Gary and I have talked a little bit about the disconnect, where it seems like the head coach wants to do one thing, the OC wants to do something else, and for whatever reason, it ain't happening.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not what you want to hear. And he might have backtracked a little bit in that statement. But listen, offensive coordinators, doesn't matter if it's at Nebraska or wherever, when you can't run the ball early, the OCs will pocket that thing, will put that run game away so quick. Mm-hmm. And that's where he has to commit to it and can't get deterred, can't get, you can't panic. And I get it. Arguably your best player is your quarterback. So you want to have him the ball in his hands thrown to some wide receivers who are obviously struggling too. But I think he has to just get over that mindset. And I think this is where Rule has to step up and like, hey, homeboy, hey, buddy, we're running this freaking thing. I don't care.
I agree.
If you don't, Glenn Thomas, hey, you're at the helms now. Because I'm gonna find someone who is willing to do it. Because we got to help this football team win and own time possession and maybe shorten some of these games. And you got to commit to it one way or the other. If you don't, hey, if you can, we'll take the reins out of your hands, or you can find somewhere else to coach. And I just think those tough conversations are probably being had and need to be discussed after a performance like that.
I agree. Hey, great stuff last night. That was not easy. I enjoyed it. You guys did a really good job putting it all into perspective. And of course, we always enjoy our visits when we can take time away from your busy workday here on Wednesdays.
Thanks, boys. Well, not too busy today. I'm gonna be on the golf course here in a few hours. So,
of course you are.
Where are you playing?
Just here in Lincoln at the Country Club of Lincoln. They have a little event that it's kind of a last hurrah out there. They call it like the Superintendent's Revenge. So there'll be some tough pins, and crazy fast greens, and we'll have some of Powell's. We'll just go out there and have a Wednesday.
Nice. And the weather's not bad.
Hit him straight, my man.
Jay, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
And so Jay Moore, black shirt, pride of Elkhorn, hell of a golfer.
Yeah, he is. It's quite the thing to see a dude built like Jay. Just, I know you think, he's going to hit the ball, but the iron game too, the finesse.
Well, he was he was competing like at the highest level of amateurs in the state, and then he had a little surgery.
Mm-hmm. Had a back surgery, but kind of ironically, the two best amateurs in our state are former football players. He and Woodhead. Danny Woodhead almost qualified for the U.S. Open.
I know he did. What does that say about the golfers in the state?
I know. Like I got much respect for Ryan Vermeer's game. Very, very good golfer. But come on, boys. Although Vermeer has played in a couple majors, so he's got that. He's still got that on him.
Brandon Vogel is still to come and wrote a great in the Monday edition of counterread.com, a fantastic breakdown on the offensive struggles that are frightening in the 15 games against Power 4. It'll be the 20th game of the Rule era coming up on Saturday in Columbus. So B. Vogue's coming up in about 15 minutes right here on 1620 The Zone.
Creighton Blue Jay men's basketball team kicks off the 24-25 season. The 15th ranked Jays are taking on the 14th ranked Purdue Boilermakers. An exhibition game Saturday, October 26th at the Chi. Listen all week with the Connor Happer Show to win a 4-pack of tickets into the game.
Speaking of Creighton basketball, that exhibition is Saturday night against Purdue. Tickets are available, fees included.
It wouldn't take long.
Big East Media Day going on in New York.
New York State mine.
At Madison Square Garden. It is being streamed on the Peacock. If you're a Creighton fan, welcome. Well, I mean, if you're a J-Sker, you already know Peacock. You already have Peacock.
Yep.
To watch Nebraska football. So this isn't new to you, but Peacock will have a lot of Big East basketball, including the Big East tournament. And today they are streaming the men's and women's media day. And earlier it was announced Ryan Kalkbrenner, no surprise, preseason player of the year.
Why were people saying, but he's not on the first team? Because he is on the first team. There were some people saying he's Big East player of the year, but he's not on the first team. But he is.
Yeah.
I don't know where people are getting
back
this.
at them, Nick.
Yeah, I don't know where people are getting this. He and Alex Caravan, Cam Jones, Bryce Hopkins, Kadari Richmond, and Eric Dixon, all first team preseason Big East. Maybe there was something out. Maybe Rothstein had leaked some bad information.
So sometimes when they do these, they take out the player of the year off the first team,
which is odd.
Make it fair.
Yeah.
It's like if he's player of the year, then he's definitely worthy of first team.
I mean, Kalkbrenner could be the player of the year and the defensive player of the year. UConn is number one. Creighton is second.
Mm-hmm.
According to the media, Stephen Ashworth is on the third team. Last year, Creighton was picked second. They finished tied for second. 22-23, they were picked first, finished third. 21-22, they were picked eighth and finished fourth. So there you go. There's your Big East history. Okay, a couple of emails here. I got to sift through this one here real quick.
Are you looking at David's?
Yeah.
It's lengthy.
All right, I'll let you read that one.
In its entirety?
In the voice of Keith Jackson.
Yeah, if you'd like to read that. I mean, I just scanned it. There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Here, let me read this one from John first.
Okay.
John says, Gary, the thing that will doom Matt Rule is the same that doomed Callahan, Cosgrove, Pelini, Riley, Banker, and Frost Chenander. Now, I want to... So, Mike Riley, Mark Banker, I liked. I really liked him. He was a great interview.
Yeah.
I think he had that defense headed in the right direction.
He had a little bit of ass kicker in him too, yeah.
So, Riley, I mean, because Billy Devaney and Eichhorst wanted Bob Diaco, Riley had to make a move on Banker. He was not going to move away from Banker. I think Banker would have been fine. I think the 17 defense would have been different. Remember, that was a complete overhaul.
Oh, yeah.
We're buying tackling instructional videos and all that crap that went on in 17.
Mm-hmm.
But John is on the right path here about loyalty.
Yeah.
Everybody to this day says, what if Callahan would have given Cosgrove the Ziggy and gotten a better DC? If you match the talent that Callahan had with a better defense, then Jimmy's not celebrating in 07 the game in Lawrence.
Celebrating, it was over by halftime.
07 was supposed to be a big year too.
Satterfield is unimaginative, one-dimensional, has lost them games. Now by the time you realize what you should have known, it's year two, and you either have to ride with him or replace him, neither good options. When was the last time you heard an opposing coach after a loss say they got out-schemed by Nebraska's staff? An 0-5 finish is at least 50-50 proposition at this point. Thanks, John.
The only time that I can remember, and it wasn't necessarily out-schemed, the only time that I can remember, and recently, by the way, too, where there was a lot of respect paid to the coaching staff to Nebraska, especially on the defensive side of the ball, was Colorado. Deion Sanders did do that, did give them a lot of credit for their preparation and the way that they came out and played the game.
Now we've gone.
But we all saw how that game went.
Is the best offensive coordinator that Nebraska has is a guy that never called plays, and his name was Scott Frost? Frost's offensive mind in
why do you want to do that to
designing
Deshaun Watson?
in designing play in the last 6 years. Last 6 years.
Okay.
Did you say Deshaun Watson?
No, Sean Watson.
Oh, I was going to say.
Last 6 years?
Last 6 years. So
I'll take you up on that.
Whipple benefited from Trey Palmer.
Yep.
Yeah,
because there were times where we wondered what that offense was doing.
But that did
Yes, masked a lot of issues.
Trey Palmer helped out a lot. Like, just think about it here. Let's play in La La Land.
Mhm.
Trey Palmer on this offense.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he makes a lot of people look really good.
Yeah.
Thought that on Monday.
Give me that.
So you can't go there because he likes how he's getting paid. But I tell you one thing that Trey Palmer did not leave behind. He legitimately woke up every day pissed.
Yep.
That dude was not fooling around.
Mhm.
I mean, he had a really engaging personality, but man, when he put his helmet on and walked on the field, that guy was a different dude. He was completely different.
Yep.
Like, then he'd walk off the field and he'd be smiling, be joking. He was a really good interview.
Oh, he's
Didn't
hilarious.
like talk to the media a lot, but that's fine. But he legitimately was pissed off every day.
Yep.
He didn't leave that behind. Okay? So he not only took his talent and being pissed off and he left and it hasn't been replaced. But with that said, I mean, that's the honesty of it.
No, I know. There's just
But think about this.
I'm trying to think who would send that text out right now.
Frost to me is a brilliant offensive mind and play designer.
Yeah.
But he essentially was never the offensive coordinator here.
Yeah.
And so you've gone from his offensive coordinators to what we have now.
Mhm. Yeah, Walters love it.
But what does it all come back to? You kind of alluded to this earlier, and they got the benefit of having better running backs in 18 is running the football.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, the offense was different because you had the element of a running quarterback.
Yes.
But running the friggin' football.
Well, and that's
if
when
you
they
can run the football, it opens up, I mean, endless possibilities.
In life, even.
True. You know what? That is a good thing. You know what? If you can run the football in your business, there's a lot of things you can do.
Amen.
There was something.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Gosh, it's just a way of life. There was something that Joel Klatt brought up in the broadcast of play action. And it was early. It was a play that got blown up. And it was sort of a half-hearted play fake by Dylan. And what you just brought up there also has me thinking about that moment. Because at the time, I dismissed it of, I hear what you're saying, Joel Klatt, but is an Indiana defense really selling out on a play fake in a play action setting for Nebraska? Does it matter if Dylan really sells that fake or not? Because are they taking it serious? But now it makes me think about a lot of little things of, you're right. If you can run the ball in any system whatsoever, maybe the air raid Mike Leach is one exception because they ran the ball via the screen and perimeter passes. But if you can do that, the ability to freeze the defense and what Dylan Raiola in a developmental year could gain from that too, I think would be huge. Yeah, you would love to have a Trey Palmer too, where all of a sudden you just completely take the top off the defense. But isn't that where a Banks is supposed to be good enough if you have a good play action type game, meaning you have a running game that they have to take serious, that those play fakes are probably going to be a lot more deliberate and more pronounced as well because it's a big part of your game. I'm not trying to excuse Dylan Raiola of having...
Trey Palmer played wide receiver at Nebraska like an NFL guy.
Yeah.
Jamal Banks was supposed to play wide receiver at Nebraska as an NFL guy. He's not.
No.
Trey Palmer ran precise routes. Casey Thompson just threw the ball up down there. You know why it was there? Because you had a guy that could track a deep ball really well and ran the right route and then had this incredible ability. Jamal Banks is not performing like what NFL wide receivers perform like. NFL wide receivers aren't sloppy at the top of the route.
Yeah.
They do everything. They block. They run right routes. They catch balls. Okay? They win 50-50 balls. They're just not doing that.
Yeah.
But you're right. He was supposed to be that type of guy.
Right. And I'll ask you this question. Well, I think I already know the answer. But is Dylan either in pregame or in the huddle at any point just saying, that's all right, Trey Palmer's down there somewhere? Who are you saying that about right now?
I don't. Honestly,
Isaiah Nayor's down there. So
okay.
No. Thomas Fidoni's down there somewhere. Maybe.
Honestly, he's not because I don't think they allow him. Yeah. Because why would you run a 20-yard dagger route, an aggressive post, or a dagger route, and you run it 20 yards downfield, and you know that your quarterback's not going to throw more than 8 yards down the field?
Yeah. That makes zero sense to me.
Joey says, remember the days when Husker fans wanted to fire Tim Beck? We did have threats at running back that were more utilized than we thought, just saying. By the way, Tim Beck, head coach at Coastal Carolina, just fired his offensive coordinator.
Is that 3 this week alone?
I think so.
3 OCs this week.
Yeah. Mike McKnight says, I heard Tim Beck mentioned in the national broadcast. Yes, he is at Coastal Carolina.
Wait, the Mike McKnight?
The Mike McKnight.
All right.
I don't know. He's doing some story yesterday about some lady that was at a church in Northwest Omaha and got, I don't know, like attacked or
Gonna go to
wild story.
Gonna make it out to Lincoln to search for the missing running game.
Now he's going to be at McDonald's today, discovering which McDonald's in
the
Omaha
E.
has
coli.
E. coli.
Yeah.
And which one has the chicken Big Mac, which I did not know until yesterday.
Oh.
Coming up next, Brandon Vogel from counterread.com will stop by the program. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk to our good friend who has had a busy week. Great entry on my favorite Substack, counterread.com on Monday. Brandon Vogel joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Well, you know the lay of the land. But what has been discussed over the last 24 hours when it comes to yards per play and all of that stuff is right in your wheelhouse. But I want to start here because your entry on Monday, breaking down some issues basically across the board with the game on Saturday. but a lot of it focused on the offense. And this is something that you shared that is inside of the story, but for people that are subscribers, they need to read the why and more behind this. Nebraska has scored more than 30 points against a power conference opponent once in 15 games under the staff. The most the defense is allowed in a win under rule, any win is 14. Basically, if the defense isn't top 10 good, this team is currently constructed, hasn't won. That is startling. I look at red zone offense. Nebraska, as of today, is 126th of 134 teams in red zone offense. They are getting opportunities. They are crossing the 50. They're crossing inside of the 40, but they can't score. Why can't they score with these opportunities that aren't like, hey, we've only had 12 red zone trips. They've had 28.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the red zone in particular, the lack of of a consistent run game really comes to the fore. You get in there inside between the 10 and the 20. You can still do some of the RPO stuff or the quick passing game to the edge, but as we've all talked about this week, the perimeter blocking still it hasn't been good enough to get you there. I mean, Thomas Fidone is still sitting here without a touchdown. He's a guy with that many red zone opportunities that I would have thought would have had multiple. We've seen Nebraska use the fade a lot. I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but it kind of becomes a quick list. And I think beyond that, when you start to look inside the 40, you're just kind of talking about the overall design of the offense as a whole. And right now, it doesn't look real good for Nebraska. You mentioned those numbers, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not recognizing them earlier. But at this point, like when I look at games for Nebraska, I just going to have to ask myself, can Nebraska hold this opposing team to less than 20 points? If not, then it's kind of hard to take the Huskers to win that one.
Gary's been saying all week his intrigue of this game is response. So what you just laid out right there, given the last 24 hours after what the offensive coordinator said, and then going all the way back to what Matt Rule said on Monday, what he would like to see the offense look like, that leads you to believe this offense will attempt to do what on Saturday?
Well, I think what they have to do, their only chance in this one is to get some big shots downfield. And working on the preview for tomorrow, looking at kind of the usual three keys for Nebraska to be in this game. I mean, look, I don't think anybody expects Nebraska to win and can make a good faith prediction for that. And with Ohio State, they're so talented. They've lost 7 games since 2021. And it looks like very basic stuff. Like you gotta stop their run game, which is kind of true of football generally. You got to hit those big plays in the passing game, and then you got to be plus in turnover margin, which is like really basic stuff that feels almost not even worth noting. But that's like how Nebraska stays in this. So the downfield passing game piece of it, and Ohio State, like statistically, huge advantage in most categories. They're only kind of slightly average in kind of passing explosiveness allowed. So that kind of seems like the narrow path forward offensively, because we just haven't seen the level of execution from Nebraska in the other facets for me to kind of recommend or even think anything else is very likely.
What is likely to happen with the offense of offensive line, pass catchers, runners, quarterback improve the most over the last 5 games?
Maybe the line. I mean, I thought this going into the Indiana game too, where you could look at the Hoosiers and be like, well, if you could break some big runs, Nebraska just doesn't have guys that do that, and I don't see that changing. Maybe with the O-line, they tried some different combos that can continue to get better. I mean, even though you've had 2 losses up there, else to the other 4 pieces of that offensive line, you've stayed relatively healthy, which is important the deeper you get into the season. So maybe there's some room there. And then quarterback, I think it's going to be an up and down ride probably. I do expect to see better from Raiola. He's kind of on a stretch that I feel, we can chalk it up to kind of freshman wall or conference play, whatever it is. But I still think like he's better than what he's been the past 3 games, and I would expect him to bounce back a little bit.
If there's a component about Saturday, the Indiana game that is, and what you see Ohio State running defensively, I know a lot of the talk yesterday was, and Tony White brought up scheme, certain schematic things that they will not even attempt to do again. How much of the Indiana game do you think is a one-off, if you will? Just aspects of defensively how Nebraska performed is a one-off.
I mean, I think you could say a slight majority. Like, it's hard. You have to kind of list out all the various pieces. But it stands out as a complete anomaly to like all of the defensive performances last year and this year, with the Michigan game being the exception, that we've seen from a Tony White defense in Nebraska. So that's certainly part of it. The momentum always plays a big piece in this too, and Indiana got all of it early, so things can kind of get out of hand to a degree that maybe occlude some things. So I would say, if it was a prop bet, I would say, yeah, I think most of it is probably a one-off. And to Gary's point about like the expectation being response for this game, I'm very much in the same boat. And I thought Matt Rule put it really well with you have to challenge Ohio State. I want to see Nebraska go out there and play like they're trying to win this game and they don't care who they're playing. And I think that starts defensively. Got to be better in the tackling piece of it. I think the essential part of it, Ohio State receivers are so good. Like they're going to get passing yards. You just got to live with it. Their ability to stop the run is their way to stay in this game on that side of the ball.
Should OCs know the yards per play metric?
I would expect a better ready-made answer than what we got yesterday. I mean, be completely fair, maybe he has other ways that other numbers he uses to measure what they're trying to do. But I mean, between 6 is about average, as a lot of people looked up or knew or talked about yesterday. I feel like you gotta have an idea of where you need to be. And that kind of goes back to some of the things I wrote about for Monday is like, there's just, the comment about the run game and committing to it means I just got to like make a focus of it or stick to it or however it was put. Like, there doesn't seem to be a handshake between what has been, minus last week, a very, very good defense and what Nebraska's trying to do offensively. And, I'm sure you guys talked about it. A lot of people talked about it. We know the plan from Rule last week was to get big and run the ball. Then they threw it on 8 plays to start. Like, Rule's on that headset. Like, he's hearing that chatter, right? So it's just it's curious in that regard of like, well, why isn't this happening? Because I think it's clear after that game and after this week, with the comments from yesterday, that there's definitely some sort of break or fissure there that is preventing the communication that needs to happen.
I want to get to the topic of, and you kind of touched on this as far as some of the red zone struggles compared to Nebraska between the 20s and even getting into opponents' territory. But there's the topic that comes up a lot about how Heinrich Harburg should be used. And if you need some extra element of the run game, well, at least he gave you that a year ago. But then there's also the predictability nature of it. If he's on the field, that he is going to be handling the football, and most likely he's going to be running with the football. And we've heard both Rule and Satterfield talk about, maybe we'll get him in a situation where he's uncorking one, he's throwing one in those sets. We're not talking, late in mop-up duty, but in those actual Heinrich Harburg sets. Is that trying to walk that fine line, Brandon, of the predictability nature of this offense in certain sets, as opposed to, we don't care if we just need the extra guy to help us run the football?
Yeah, I think I'm certainly at a point where I'm more interested in the latter. Like, and so much of football is about just execution anyway. It's like, if they want to put Harvard out there and run last year's playbook for a drive, particularly in a game like this where if you're down, why not? Like see what happens. And then by the time you go back in there again, like maybe you can hit one of those long passes that we did see a year ago to a wide open Jalen Lloyd or somebody off of an option play action. I think getting an extra guy, because what we've seen with Nebraska's run game so far, it isn't working. And of late, particularly in conference play, we've seen, I think, the impact that's had on the passing game. So that piece of it's got to get better. It's not a very good bet to get better against this defense this week. So what are you going to do? I think you got to have some special stuff and get outside your comfort zone a little bit.
It will not be, as you alluded to, the first time that Matt Rule has been a underdog of 24 or more points. So he's 0-5 straight up, but he has covered 4 of those times. Would it be good teams win, great teams cover? In Nebraska's case, that would be a win.
Yeah, I think if you're a Husker fan, or for myself personally, I would count that as a win for Nebraska. Looking at this Ohio State game this year kind of sent me back to 2021. That was the most snake-bitten team yet. Nebraska just played Ohio State kind of straight up, lost by 9. That was at home. They were 14.5-point underdog.
God, that game was ugly.
Yeah.
But,
the JoJo Tillman game.
That's what you want. You want an ugly one in this one. I was watching highlights. That JoJo Doman interception remains phenomenal. So we've seen Nebraska kind of rough this game up a little bit in the past. So it's not out of the question.
Yeah, we'll see how long we hang around. As always, great stuff. Appreciate your time as always, and counterread.com is the place to go, not only to peruse, but become a subscriber to the great stuff that you and Aaron put out.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That's Brandon Vogel. You can follow him on Twitter at Brandon L. Vogel. All right. Are we on to Ohio State?
We'll try.
I
don't know what today will entail.
We're going to talk about playing man against Jeremiah Smith.
Oh. I don't even think you need to worry about back shoulders on that one.
Or being in the right run fit to stop Judkins and Henderson.
Yeah. Okay. That was the one big criticism, though, that old Ryan Day got away from the running game a little too early and not often enough in the second half against Oregon. So maybe he'll just give Nebraska's defense one thing to worry about. They'll just lead the running game for a different game.
Hey,
save that for Indiana.
The good thing in Lincoln today, there is no media availability.
No, there's not.
Right.
Is there a chasing? Is there a chasing 3 drop? Maybe. Who's on the coach's show tonight?
You just opened up yourself to a bunch of jokey jokers. All right, that'll do it for the show. Big thanks to our guest, Joey Kaufman. Good perspective on Ohio State, who, if you're in Columbus, you'd think they're 1-5.
Yeah.
They are 5-1.
They're mad.
That's what my Google machine says. Mm-hmm. Also, Jay Moore and Brandon Vogel. Great stuff. All the segments that you may have missed or you want to consume again will be up on the radio replay page at 1620thezone.com. For Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. We're back in 20 hours, and we're on to Ohio State and much more on a Thursday edition, which comes your way tomorrow at 6. The crossover is next.